Well, welcome back, one and all. The time has come. We've arrived at SPA-FRANCORCHAMPS, 2 qualifying sessions down, and now we're set for the GT Open 500 for a 2-hour and 55-minute plus 1 lap race with 3 driver change windows around this 7.004 kilometre circuit, a clockwise direction with 19 corners to make our way through at a track that has been open now for over 103 years. Back in August 1921, the iconic SPA-FRANCORCHAMPS came into being here in the heart of Stavelot, Belgium, in the picturesque Ardennes forest. We have got numerous spectators, fans of GT racing across the globe tuning in for this one, and it is set to be a Hall of Majesty, with this race in its current guise as an endurance on show since 2022, first won by Leonardo Polcini and Benjamin Hites from Oregon Team Lamborghini. Sam Dahan and Charlie Fagg lighting it up in 2023 after a close encounter with East Talent Racing back that year for Optimum Motorsport. And last year, Alphys Lazubert, Michael Grenier taking victory for Almanar Racing by Get Speed. 3 different manufacturers winning the 500 in the last 3 years. We could be set to crown another one, but McLaren looking very strong with the James Kell and Dean McDonald combination taking the average pole time after 2 stellar qualifying sessions, brings them to the front end of the order. And they have also got right at the top the coupling of Simon Riker as well as Christopher Haase, who went so close to taking victory in this very same race back in 2023. They're looking for redemption. Let's see if they get it. Your commentators, George Morgan here as well, and joining me for this festive display. He was here last year as well. He couldn't get enough of it, so he's come back. Ewan Dunlop, how are you doing, sir?
Very good, thank you. Absolutely love this place. When I get the invite to come back, I go, yes, 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 I'll be there, I'll be there. Straight on the plane. So qualifying yesterday, Dean McDonald and James Kell in the Greystone, as you've just heard, their combined time was 2:14.196. Kell at 2:13 and McDonald at 2:14. That was just 0.04 of a second quicker than the Mercedes of Team Motorpark, Levente Ravesh and Max Gotts, who did have, of course, Cairoli at Portimao in round 1. Got a new partner here in crime at Spa. And then the reigning champions, Simon Riker and Christopher Haase for East Talent Racing in their Audi R8. Combined time, again, just 0.03 of a second back from the front pairing. So on the front 3, McLaren, Mercedes, Audi. Beautiful.
And obviously remember as well, success handicaps will be a prevalent issue, and they will be undertaken in the first and second changes. Obviously remember, we have got 3 driver change windows opening up through the course of this race, so that will offer plenty in terms of strategy. Here is Levente Ravesh, who is our current championship leader, along with Matteo Cairoli. But Cairoli not here this weekend. He's got Maximilian Gotts in the car alongside him. Anthony Bartone to take the first stint as well for Get Speed Mercedes. And for the Bartone brothers car, obviously coupled with Fabian Schiller. There's Artem Petrov, who I got a chance to speak to yesterday, and all big smiles as well. He's got Anton Dokkan taking the first stint in his stead, at least for now, and they're embracing the 63 Lamborghini Huracan GT3 that actually went on to win this race back in 2022.
I mean, just looking down the grid here, it's just absolutely beautiful, isn't it? That's car 51. That's the AF course of Carl Bennett and Tommaso Mosca, the Ferrari 296 Racing in the Pro category. Here is the Olymp Racing, Marcin Jedlinski and Carol Bash. They're starting in 9th on the grid. And the Elite Motorsport, look at this, just as a motorsport fan, you come to an event like this, the cars are just absolutely incredible. Tom Emsom starting in the car number 17, the Elite Motorsport, 5th row of the grid.
Some relief for Elite Motorsport in the fact that they fixed the door issue.
Yes, they
that
have.
has, of course, been an issue back at Portimao. It came actually off its hinges back at Portimao, just due to a typical design issue, design fault, but they've actually put a Dubry clip on the inside of the door, drilled a hole through it just to stop it from lifting out of its socket, because, of course, remember, the cars go up on the jacks during the driver change period. If the door comes off, it just adds unnecessary time to your changeover phase. It's not ideal at all.
Jubilee clips, gaffer tape. Is there anything else you need?
Well,
WD-40?
Why not?
What can't you fix in a garage?
Yeah, incredible.
There's one of the Oregon Lamborghinis, just 2 Lamborghinis in the field this year. That one belonging to Robin Rogladsky, starting in 14th row 7.
Of course, Robin Rogalski representing the Oregon team with Jerry Canavicia once again at the helm. There is the returning legend, Andrea Montemini, now joining the Myrtel Motorsport team ahead of this GT Open 500 race, and he is in a very strong pro contingent with Luca Ludwig, who actually went on to win the GT Cup Europe title last year. Well, he didn't win it personally, but his teammate Ivan Velasco did, that's for sure. ISR Racing Audi, great to have them back too. Libel Milotta, Philip Salacada, they'll be featuring once again here on this grid. We look forward to seeing them in action, and definitely one of the grandest improvers in this grid as well. This Pro-Am pairing of Alex Fontana and Hash. Hash taking the opening stint here in this race, entering GT racing for the first time over the last couple of years, but has taken to it like a duck to water, has the man from the United States, and we look forward to seeing how he gets on. But now we take a nice pan view with the drone shot as we take a look at all the cars across the grid. There's the Rinaldi racing car that's marking its first appearance this season for a sole venture at the SPA 500 this time around. Of course, the first visit for them here this campaign, and we look forward to seeing them in action. Of course, they were right in close proximity with Max Gotts. Eventually, they had actually a little bit of a coming together in qualifying yesterday, but obviously both cars making it out okay. We also welcome back JMR as well. We've got our first Corvette since 2013 joining the grid, the Z06 coming in. Of course, they've registered. Chevrolet Corvettes have actually had 13 wins historically in the International GT Open, and they'll be hoping for something special today. But the actual team itself, we last had them back in 2018. Well, let's take you through the highlights of what happened last time out when we went racing at Portimao for round one to get 2025 underway. And it was the pairing of Fabian Schiller and Anthony Bartone that got off to a grandiose start, to say the least. Alfredo Hernandez came close with Stanislav Jedlinski coming through the first sector. Eventually, both cars would come to a grinding halt. But this was where the overtake took place in terms of the race win. Eventually, James Kell, Dean McDonald getting the overtake done during the pit stop phase, slightly quicker than Anthony Bartone leaving the garage. Bartone would also face a little bit of scrutiny as well after coming together with Motor Park's Mercedes, but it would be Kell and McDonald taking the opening race win of the season ahead of the Easterland Audi pairing. Alex Fontana getting off to a brilliant start ahead of race two as well, led the way in the opening stint. We then saw, of course, some major moves being made by the Optima Motorsport pairing as well, of Zach Meekin and Mikey Porter, but it would be Levente Ravesh who would also plumb for a race win as well, this time alongside Matteo Cairoli. They come into this round as championship leaders, and now looking ahead to the Spa 500, looking for a big result once again this time around today. There is our Drivers' Championship, Levente Ravesh, the Hungarian championship leader. Matteo Cairoli, who is not here today, he is also with him up at the very top. James Kell, D. McDonald on pole ahead of the 500 here at Spa. They are second, 3 points behind, but looking to overtake them for a potential championship lead as we head through to today. Well, now as the grid gets cleared, the cars are left alone. Let's take you through the starting grid for the first GT Open 500 race of the season. James Kell lines up on pole position alongside him. Simon Riker, McLaren and Audi meet again for the first time since 2023 in contest for a potential race win. Robert Viso-Yu in third, with Zach Meekin in fourth as well for Optima Motorsport. Further down in fifth is Levente Ravesh, current championship leader, alongside Anthony Bartone, looking for redemption after race two at Portimao last time out. Anton Dokan for Oregon team, looking for a win for the first time since 2022, I should say, lining up alongside Carl Bennett. Marcin Jedlinski in the Olymp Racing Audi alongside Tom Emson for Elite Motorsport Ferrari on the fifth row. Sixth row is Valentin Pierberg and Steve Jans as well on his return to the International GT Open this season. Marcelo Ramirez in 13th place, lining up alongside Robin Rogalski, also from Oregon Team Lamborghini. Luca Ludwig in the Myrtel Ferrari alongside Libel Milotta for the Audi R8 LMS GT3 camp in 16th for ISR. Hash in 17th alongside Heiko Neumann in 18th on the 9th row of the grid. We then move further down into 19th place, Michael Blanchimon with Lewis Michael Dorbecker in 20th. That's the 10th row. And we then head further down into 21st place. Johannes Zelga has got Babini in his corner as well. Christian Hook in for Rinaldi Racing in 22nd place. Mark Sampson will be handing over to Miguel Ramos, yet another legend of this championship. Jamie Stanley also returns to the championship alongside Laurent de Meus in 24th. Amir Naran in 25th with Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim. We welcome them back too, this time with a Chevrolet Corvette. We haven't seen that in a while. Alfredo Hernandez in 27th place with Eduardo Bacci down in 28th place in the Ferrari Ferrari 296 GT3. And then comes Gino Forgione, also in the Ferrari 296 in 29th, and Stanislav Jedlinski on his return will be joined by Christian Korzanowski in 30th place. But now all 30 cars make their way uphill through towards Les Combes and now through Malmedy, the safety car taking them around. Remember, a rolling start to take us through, but we have got a long 2 hours and 55 minutes plus 1 lap of racing action to give you as they now look to put in final preparations, get those Michelin tyres heated up. This is where double points are on offer. Huge opportunities for every car across this grid, Ewan.
In terms of the championship, of course, double points is absolutely massive. This is an 8-round series with 14 races in total. This is a big old jump you can make, of course. The current leaders, Levente Ravesh and Matteo Corelli / Max Gotts, only a 3-point lead over the Greystone. Pole sitters today, James Kell and Dean McDonald. Reigning champions, Christopher Haase and Simon Riker, sitting in 3rd place, just 5 points off the top spot. Now, it is no surprise to see a front 4-row lockout of all pro teams. Of course, we have the Pro-Am competition and the Am. Currently leading the Pro-Am is Dominic Baumann and Valentin Pierberg on 18 points, tied with Hash and Alex Fontana. In the Am competition, Mark Sampson and Miguel Ramos leading by 2 points over their Am competitors. So the formation lap comes towards its conclusion around Campus and Stavolo. So 4 or 5 more turns. Of course, we do have the rolling start in the GT Open, and then it is foot down and a race to La Source, the all-important corner to get this lap underway. You come out of that one, you fly up Eau Rouge along the Kemmel Straight, and you're in the advantage. James Kell looking to do it again for Greystone. Winners at Portimao, but this would be all the more special. The Spa 500, a 7-kilometre track, over 100 years of history around these 19 corners. And we're on board with the number 11 of Team Motorpark, Levente Ravesh and Max Gotts. They will be starting on the 3rd row of the grid. Ravesh taking charge of the steering wheel for the first of 4 little stints. George, over to you. Let's go.
How's the nerves? One and all. There is the Greystone GT Garage. Dean McDonald watching on as James Kell takes the opening stint. There's Christopher Haase. He'll have raw memories from 2 years ago where he came toe-to-toe with Charlie Fagg and Sam Dahan as the Red Zepra battled against the Easterlane Audi. It was a remarkable season that year. They were both fighting for the championship. Eventually, Charlie Fagg, Sam Dahan would go on to take the title that same year too. So this race could have very vast, should we say, rewards that could yet lead to title victories. Greystone GT will hope it'll happen in their favour, but Easterlane will be there to stop them as well as all 30 cars line up with all 5 lights lit red. They now go green, and in the GT Open Spa 500, it's pedal to the metal, and it's go, 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 go! And it is Greystone that get the upper hand coming through towards turn 1. A great start as well from what looks to be Levente Ravesh, as well as further back, more Motorpark cars coming into this as well. We've got the Elite Racing Ferrari side by side with Marcin Jedlinski as now they ascend uphill through towards Eau Rouge and Radion to get us underway. It's James Kell out in front. Through goes Simon Riker up the hill as well. Over the crest they will go once more. Jamie Stanley running a little bit wide, coming through Eau Rouge, and Radion in his own right trying to move his way up through the field. But as now they make their way through the latter stages of Sector 1, James Kell looking to the outside now, looking to take the fastest line possible, coming through Les Combes indeed, and it is Kell, Riker, Ravesh, Visoyu, Meakin, Bartone, Tom Emson up into 7th place, Jedlinski, Dokan down into 9th, with Bennett in 10th as we run on board with Jamie Stanley.
Yeah, James Kell, absolutely perfect start. Dean McDonald will be absolutely thrilled in the garage. Around La Source, and away they go. The Olymp Racing going for the outside line. Inside Team Oregon go. And that is round into Les Combes, and Jedlinski up into 8th place overall and first in the Pro-Am category. Great start for team, but James Kell making a move. Simon Riker behind him, the reigning champion Simon Riker, alongside Christopher Haase, of course. They're in the Audi R8, chasing the McLaren through the opening few corners.
Yeah, Marcin Jedlinski actually getting overtaken by Anton Dokan there over 8th place. So the Olymp Racing Audi, obviously changing to Audi here this time around. They're now sat behind what looks to be the ISR Audi. belonging, of course, to Libor Milota. So some major changes happening in that just outside the top 10 as we're out on board with Jamie Stanley again in full pursuit of the Mercedes in front. That's the 82 that's being driven by Marcelo Ramirez. They are also in pro class. Jamie Stanley, of course, representing the Pro-Am contingent, obviously alongside Laurent de Meus, the Belgian, back again in the International GT Open. Last time out at Portimao, he had Vincent Abril as his teammate for that weekend. But it looks like James Kell is trying to check out here. He's 1.7 to nearly 1.8 up the road right now. Purple in all 2 sectors thus far. Will it be a purple third to get the first lap one and done and away? Of course it will be, as he now makes his way down through towards turn 1, seeing as he led from the get-go. We've got plenty of time, though, to take us through with many questions to be asked. A very trying testing circuit, of course. This circuit also home to the Spa 24-hour. The Belgian Grand Prix. It hosts many great races throughout the course of the motorsport calendar year. As now Jamie Stanley launches himself through and past the 82 of Marcelo Ramirez, who will, of course, be handing over to Rolf Aaron later on in the stint. And Luka Ludwig also getting a very busy start, as well as managed to get past Robin Rogalski.
So James Kell starting to move away. This is an absolutely ideal dream start. They've already got 1 win this season, of course, at Portimao, but the McLaren leaped to an absolute fire. Simon Riker leading the rest of the pack. A little move up the inside there for the Team Oregon number 19. That is Rogalski and Ukran in the Hurricane. One of those many in the pro class. We now got a full pro in the first 11 spaces. Picking up dust in the background there, but that is absolutely standard for Spa. Just getting a couple of wheels onto the dust. Here's an onboard view of the move from behind. Oh, and a touch into the wall. That's a little bit naughty, isn't it?
That is very tight coming out of La Source indeed. I'd imagine there will be a little bit of a look by race control at that one. No less, and maybe a warning fired off as well to the team. There is Jerry Canavicio, who is watching on, of course, team boss, alongside Pier Giorgio Testa of the Oregon Team Lamborghini, of course, Italian outfit that have been such a powerhouse in the realms of International GT Open in the last few years. Look back fondly at their championship win back in 2022, but they're also the reigning teams champions coming into this season as well. James Kell, despite obviously continuing, well, he took the fastest lap, didn't he, in the opening lap, as you'd expect, being the first car on the grid, and has careered onwards by 2.9 now. He's purple in the first 2 sectors on this lap. He is absolutely rapid out there, the only driver lapping in 2 minutes and 20 at the moment. Now,
of course, there are going to be some handicaps to bring you. We'll bring up to speed with those as we get closer to that first driver changeover. There will be 3, of course, in this almost just up to 3-hour race as they filter their way through the bus stop chicane. We got some fantastic images on screen here, and it's a 2:16.
That is a stunning lap there.
2:16.673 from James Kell. Simon Riker goes to 2:18, as does Levente Ravesh.
Just a rubber stamp as to how much faster that is. That is over a second quicker a lap than Simon Riker at the moment. And bear in mind, they are obviously going to be very heavily weighted on fuel for this opening stint. Again, the race has only just begun, so James Kell looking to usher in this gap as vast as possible. It's in the interest of Laurenti Ravesh to really try and get past this Easter Audi, because he needs to try and retain at least somewhat of a gap on James Kell, but already Greystone plumbing for that early advantage. There's Luka Ludwig making his way through out of Les Combes, chasing after Carl Bennett in the AF Corsa Ferrari. As we said, it's been a little while since AF Corsa Ferrari have won an International GT Open Teams Championship. We look back to the years of 2014 since they last won the team's title, as they now usher their way out of the Rivage section. As we take a look inside Mari Bonduel's team as well, the BDR Grupo Prom outfit, who had a little bit of an issue apparently with one of their Mercedes chassis that was cracked apparently at Portimao. They haven't been able to fully fix it to the point where they've been able to get a replacement part, but they're trying to work with it as best they can as they look to try and make their way around this, well, certainly through this Spa race.
Well, was that Levente Ravesh flashing to get past Simon Riker?
Very keen.
I don't think he's going to give way right now.
Well, no, I mean, he has no reason to give that place at all. I mean, Riker's driving his own race at the moment, so certainly no need for Riker to move out of the way, as now Tom Emson picks up some of the gravel on the outside. But obviously, as far as Revesh is concerned, he's basically trying to say to Riker, come on, speed up, we need to close back to James Kell. Whilst obviously it's still very early into the race, you set the tone for the rest of the race in these early stages. And again, we see another flash of the lights here from Leventi Revesh, the Hungarian, so close to contact, making her way through as the front right on the Motorpark Mercedes meets the rear left on the Audi R8 LMS from Easterland as they now power down through towards turn 1. I'm sure Peter Riker is watching as his son takes the helm for this opening stint, with now Revesh plumbing to the outside line, looking for the cutback coming out of turn 1. I was speaking to Timo Rumpf, of course. This has been an adaptation here from Leventi Revesh, moving from single-seater competition that he took part in last year to now moving into GT3 racing. And obviously he's now moving into GT3. He has the benefits of the use of ABS and things of that nature. It's able to unlock yet more pace from the Hungarian on top of the natural talent that he already packs as well. But he's dragging along fellow Motorpark teammate Robert Viso-Yu, who is also looking to the outside coming through towards Lecom. That was a defensive-minded approach there from Revesh coming up towards Lecom, but no changes made. Indeed, inside this top 4, they remain as they are, the status quo, but it's 5.6 now between James Kell and Riker.
There's actually only one change in the top 5 from the starting order. That was just a switch between Leventi Revesh and Simon Riker. The biggest gainer in the opening a few laps is in fact Tom Empson in the number 17. That's the Elite Motorsport Mercedes AMG. They started in 10th and have moved up to 7th place. That's the biggest change we've seen so far. And I tell you what, Leventi Revesh is absolutely desperate to get past Simon Riker and start getting up the road. It's going to be close to 6 seconds soon, that lead, and that could be, as we know, we've seen in Portimao, pit stops are utterly crucial. Quarters of seconds can make the difference between placings at the end of the race. Of course, a mammoth of an event still to go, but every single 10th loss now behind Riker for Revesh could mean places later on.
Yeah, could well do. We're now right on board with Leventi Revesh at the moment. Remember, Maximilian Goertz coming in for his first start in the GT Open this season, and Revesh certainly with his fair share of classy teammates. Of course, he had Matteo Cairoli last time, and now the game has changed somewhat with a new driver present inside the car. Still Easterland Audi, though, holding that second place as now Revesh once again has a little look, just a brief look on Simon Riker coming through the bus stop chicane, this time around the gap. Very minute, just over a quarter of a second, just over 3/10 in fact, very nearly 3.5 tenths, and all this causing a little bit of a bottleneck, and the McLaren belonging to Zach Meakin now getting very close to the back of Robert Viso-Yu. So this top 4, or should we say a P2 down to P4, 3 cars in contingent, becomes a 4-car contingent, with Zach Meakin now looking to enter the Optimum Motorsport McLaren inside this fight. And of course Optimum looking to go and take a second win in the 500. They won it back in 2023, like we said earlier on in the show, with Charlie Fagg and Sam Dahan.
Yeah, Zach Meakin, just 18 years of age, 2024 GT4 champion with Optimum, and Jack Blaine in the McLaren Artura. GT3 debut at the GT Open 500 at Monza. So 500, maybe a speciality for the number 4, Zach Meakin. And it's now beyond 7 seconds for James Kell, 4 laps completed.
The first time we came here in the International GT Open as a whole was back in 2008. Remember this championship beginning back in 2006. Here comes Jamie Stanley. A look up the inside of the number 20 Mercedes of Valentin Pierberg, who won the Pro-Am title back in 2019 and winning at races such as Silverstone alongside Tom Onslow Cole. Well, losing a place this time to Jamie Stanley, and bear in mind that is a Pro-Am battle that we are witnessing out there at the moment. And Stanley now up into 15th place overall, but 4th in his class. Steve Yans currently leading Pro-Am as it stands, and the Miguel Ramos, Mark Sampson connection currently leading the AM contingent as well. Currently at the bottom 3 overall, Gino Forgione, Alfredo Hernandez, Stanislav Jedlinski representing the remaining AM class contingent that currently sit 28th, 29th and 30th.
And the longer this battle goes on for second place, the more cars are going to come into it. Now you got Anthony Bartone in the number 9. As of course the Get Speed Mercedes. They are well in this fight now. Everybody's going to get dragged in. Another little sneaky look around the side, but there's just nowhere to go. They're so finely matched, these cars. It's going to take a mistake, maybe from Simon Riker, to let Levente Ravesh through. But we are now on to what, lap 4 or 5, and there's just not been any chink in the armour. Of course, behind Bartone, you've got Tom Emson from 10th up to 7th. Anthony Ducan in the 63. That's one of our 2 Oregon Lamborghinis. And it's now a train. Simon Riker leading a train of Mercedes, McLaren, Ferrari and Lamborghini up Eau Rouge. Another time, all the while, James Kell takes his lead out to beyond 9 seconds.
This is a stunning display, certainly from the McLaren outfit of James Kell and Dean McDonald. Because McDonald will be taking the stint when the driver change window does come into effect. The first one doesn't start until 24 minutes and 50 seconds time. Here is a picture-in-picture. We take a look at a replay first and foremost at the start. Great getaway from James Kell. He was really on the money where it came to the release. Robert Bissou looked very racy as well up the inside. Levente Ravesh also getting off to a very busy start, would eventually form up in behind the Easterlent Audi that would hold on to P2. Good start for Simon Riker, despite losing out initially to that P2 coming into the entrance of La Source. Great tenacity on display from him to pull himself out of that. Jamie Stanley took a wider line as well. We can take a look at the rest of the cars filtering out towards the rear of the field. You can see the 2 Oregon cars as well, just in that mid-scrap. Also further down, Marcelo Ramirez was going side by side on the run uphill through Eau Rouge and Rallion. Just look at that picturesque view with 30 cars flying up through that iconic location out on track as we see the onboard of Levente Ravesh coming down through towards turn 1. Robert Bissou on the right-hand side slipped it up the inside of the Easterlent Audi of Simon Riker, just overextended a little bit. He had that aggressive line through turn 1, therefore lost out on the escape, so therefore handed it back to Simon Riker, and Levente Ravesh was able to go straight on through.
Big over the gravel as well. Right, bringing up to speed in the AM competition, Mark Sampson in the 188, that is the Garage 59 McLaren, 2 bronze drivers in there. They are leading, 25th overall, but leading in AM as we speak. Plenty way down on the field. 2 pros in the gap of plenty of pro-ams, that's Ramirez and Dobitsky, but still on board with Levente Ravesh. And all he's seen for the last 10 minutes is the tail end of an Audi R8 belonging to Simon Riker.
Yeah, still unchanged inside this P2 battle. At the moment, Ravesh has been digging deep. Remember, we saw him flashing intensely on Simon Riker, but like we said before, he has no reason to forego the position. Last lap, James Kell putting in a purple middle sector as well, still working ahead and lapping convincingly in the 216s at the moment. Very strong at the head of the order. 10.5 seconds now the gap between Ps1 and Ps2, so all this groundwork being put in place. And can I just say, Dean McDonald, no slouch either. The 65, that's a Motorpark 65 of Heiko Neumann around at turn 1, and he's going to forfeit to fleeted places. That's Mark Sampson coming in behind him as well, the leader of the AM class at the moment, so that should push Heiko Neumann down into 24th place. So that's disappointing for him. Remember, he's got Lucas Dunner alongside him for this season. Let's take a look at what happened here earlier on as well. This was a bit of a moment into the gravel. Now, that is Zach Meakin treading into the gravel there. We just witnessed that during our picture-in-picture moment. And Oregon also having a car go in and for a spin. Robin Rogalski in the 19 Oregon car. Now finding himself around, obviously was 13th place, as we're currently seeing it on Time in Tower, and it was contact with Marcelo Ramirez on the 65 of Heiko Neumann, so he didn't spin by his own volition. He was encouraged coming through turn 1 at La Source.
Back towards the front of this Southern 8-car train. James Kell, 10.5 seconds up there, 11.5 seconds up the road, and not too many happy faces in the Get Speed garage. There, Simon Riker at the front. Levente Ravesh, Bissou, Meakin, Bartone, Empson, Doquan, Ludwig and Bennett, your top 10. And you start to question, right, what is going to make a difference here? As he has absolutely almost the entire length of the start-finish straight to himself, does James Kell. Incident involving cars 65 and 82 at turn 1 has been noted. So the stewards will have a little look at that one. But again, no opportunity for Ravesh to overtake Simon Riker. And again, more cars coming to the fray.
Yeah, still plenty of time left. East Audi holding on to that P2 still. The gap increasing once more. It's 12.1 already. The last lap, another 2:16, 4:11. Just keeps peppering in those times consistently. 2:16 every time from James Kell, and that makes the difference up at the top. And we've got a little bit of a mishmash coming through over the crest at Eau Rouge and Radion, it would seem. Now that is the lineup in behind. I think that might be Stanislav Jedlinski just in behind the... No, that's the Elite. I do apologise, of Tom Emson just in behind. Now that is Luka Ludwig moving up side by side. Of course, Artem Petrov jumping in the 63 later on. That's Anton Dokan who now rejoins the circuit as well as Luka Ludwig. A little bit of contact, paint scrubbing as they make their way uphill, but nothing dramatic. Certainly happening there, but track limits violation warnings for car 26. So that belongs to Michael Blanchim on the Santalok Audi. I do also need to update you on the incident involving the 65 and also the 82 at turn 1. That has been noted by race control, everybody. That was the one that involved Heiko Neumann. And of course the 82 belonging to Marcelo Ramirez. They are looking at that at race control. So we'll keep you updated as the race pans out.
So still very little change in the top 10 from our starting order. Oh, some more time on the gravel. Crikey. That is just pushing the limits at every single corner. That was Zach Meekin.
He likes it a bit too much in there. Of course, it was at this portion of track where he went off at the gravel trap as well previously. So that's 2 ventures, and that's not going to do your tyres any good. Certainly, especially when you're looking to try and pull out these really important lap times. And obviously on the back of Robert Visoyu, needs to try and muscle his way as close as he can in order to challenge. So we run on board here with Levente Ravesh as he goes in full pursuit now, and he's fed up of waiting. He's going to look to go side by side here with Simon Riker as we run on board coming out of turn 19, and Levente Ravesh, finally it's arrived. He can make the move up into second place. He's been threatening it since the very start of this race, and now he bursts through past Simon Riker, second place going to Ravesh.
And now we're going to see if that flashing was justified, if he can move away from Simon Riker, or maybe if he stays just in front, then it was fair game all along. But James Kell, in the meantime, during this 6-lap battle, has moved 14.4 seconds up the road. Now, Simon Riker all over his tail, Robert Visoyu and Zach Meekin looking to jump into third place and follow in the footsteps of Levente Ravesh.
Well, he certainly laid down the groundwork, the blueprint for what could happen later on. But Riker, very fast in his own right, has improved massively over the last few years, has taken part in various races, whether it be in other realms of GT3 category racing. But let's take a look at this again. This is the replay. Levente Ravesh up the inside, and Timo Rumpkar noted that his massive gainer has been his braking since moving into GT3, and that has really changed the game in terms of his race. And that just goes to show, doesn't it? One of the heaviest braking points on the circuit coming in towards bus stop, managing to move up the inside side by side with Simon Riker. And Motor Park now in the Mercedes-AMG GT3 now sits second place, and now need to work on that deficit between themselves and James Kell. Over far too many laps they've been lapping in the 2:18s. James Kell still knocking in those 2:16s.
And it is Steve Jans in the Get Speed Mercedes leading the Pro-Am class right now. He'll be handing over to Aaron Walker in around about 20 or half a minute's time. Zach Meekin, tell you what, he loves the gravel, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's really attracted to it at the moment, but almost magnetised on the outset of La Fanier chicane. Now coming through out of Campus and Stavelot through Corbeil Paul Frere. Hasn't deterred him though, he's still on the tail of Robert Visoyu as they head through towards Blanchimont. Now you can see the gap starting to build between Riker and Ravesh to nearly 2 seconds at the moment. And can I just say, Ravesh, purple in that middle sector, so he's now finding the pace that he probably wish he had at the start of the race. Now as in comes Robert Visoyu, looking to do exactly what Ravesh did, but the up and under on offer here for Simon Riker. Here comes Zach Meekin, looking to enter his iron into the fire. So now, a 2-car affair becomes a 3-car affair. Unfortunately for Zach Meekin, wasn't able to find the avenue. Through goes Visoyu though, back comes Riker, in comes now, down the inside as well, Zach Meekin once more. There's now the 3 cars duke it out, coming through Les Sources, but it is going to be Robert Visoyu, Motor Park now, 2 and 3.
Absolutely wonderful, taking the lead. Levente Ravesh, Robert Visoyu through. Zach Meekin will want to do the same next. And Simon Riker is now a matter of holding on to that 4th place position as it stands. And look at this, the gap at the front for the first time today has come down ever so slightly. So Levente Ravesh finding his pace around this 7-kilometre trek. Will he make up 14 seconds? Very, very unlikely. And here is another look at that overtake from the number 13, Robert Visoyu. And Simon Riker loses another place. Zach Meakin just gives a little tap on the back left end.
The ultimate opportunist, really, wasn't he? Trying to look for that podium spot out on track. Still a long way to go, though, folks, at home. 14 seconds between Ravesh and Kell this time around. And can I just say, Ravesh ushering his own 2:16 into the fold. And he's not the only one either, because Luka Ludwig in the last lap put in a personal best.
Wow.
2:16.852 as well. Now, remember, he'll be swapping in for the legendary Andrea Montemini returning to the series. We've got both Miguel Ramos and Montemini here with us this weekend. And there is Luka Ludwig right now on the back of Anthony Bartoni, has caught up with yet another conglomerate of cars, is now in through past Stanislav Jedlinski, goes Robert Visoyu. He's now going to meet Simon Riker. There is Bartone, there's Ludwig, as well as they look to try and breeze past the Olymp Racing Ferrari that's limping around at the moment, coming through out of Sector 2, and now Ludwig has an opportunity to get past Bartone in the Ferrari for Mertel Motorsport and Mario Grump's team, and indeed he has done it. Luka Ludwig now through past yet another pro car, and it's Bartone, who will of course be handing over to the Schiller later on, but great move there from Ludwig.
Yeah, definite problems for the Olymp Racing 777. Marcin Jadlinski was leading the Pro-Am class after a few laps, but he's just been going backwards, and that has got serious problems. So the garage will be getting ready to welcome him in and see if they can solve any problems on board with the number 55. That's the AF course of De Merson Stanley, the Ferrari 296. And they are chasing the back of Milota in the Pro-Am class for second place in class at the minute. Steve Yan's still leading, just a couple of seconds up the road.
Yeah, I mean, Jamie Stanley, so experienced as a driver, has taken part in the realms of British GT, is a GT Cup champion as well in his own right, the Meds driver coach and supporter of Laurent de Meus, the Belgian, here at his home race. And more importantly, at the SPA-500, Laurent de Meus loves taking part in this series. And, you know, in his time, I mean, I've always known Jamie Stanley and Laurent de Meus to be together since 2022, since I began commentating on the International GT Open, as we now watch as they look to also get past Stanislav Jedlinski on the run up through towards Les Combes. And indeed, nice and calm, through they go. Jedlinski not moving a muscle, allowing both cars to venture onwards as they continue their Pro-Am fight over Pro-Am P2. We now rejoin the garage. There is Andrea Montemini, just conversing with the Mertel team, and they can enjoy at the moment some really astonishing performances so far here from Luka Ludwig. 7th place in our timing screen, 1.2 away from Tom Empson for Elite Motorsport Ferrari. There they are right now, just stuck in behind the car belonging to Optimum's very own Zach Meakin, who in turn is currently behind Simon Riker, 1.3 away from Robert Visoyu. So the two Motorpark cars now started to turn the screw and get a little bit quicker. James Kell faster than Ravesh over the last lap by 1.1 seconds. Now that could be down to traffic. Could be the case that Ravesh was just caught in behind other cars. I can tell you that is likely as to what it is, because on this lap he's purple again in Sector 2.
Yeah, 62.8 on sector number 2, Levente Ravesh. So again, the gap between the front two just fluctuating around sort of 14 to 15 seconds, and Ravesh now 4.6 up the road from Visoyu. Simon Riker 2 seconds back. So this early clog of 6 or 7 cars that we had is starting to separate at the front, but Simon Riker now leading another train of 5 cars, which is Zach Meakin, Tom Impson, Luka Ludwig and Anthony Bartone. A few more coming around in the back there as well. Bennett, Doquin and Jans leading the Pro-Am class.
Yeah, there comes the Elite Ferrari, and now Luka Ludwig has caught up to the back of Tom Empson, so 2 Ferraris now will look to fight it out. Mario Grum's Mertel team that have been a prominent force in GT Cup Europe over the last couple of years. Well, they've entered the GT Open for the first time this year, and Luka Ludwig, with all his experience, utilising it to the very best of it. And now the former GT Masters champion rises to the occasion. Into 6th place he goes, and next on his list is Zach Meakin, and they are all so closely batched together at the moment. There is, of course, Luka Ludwig currently on our screens now, making his way through Les Combes. There's Anthony Bartone, as now the timing screen updates. Ludwig now in 6th place and a second behind Zach Meakin for Optimum Racing McLaren.
Now, a conversation we had earlier this morning, from the moment we arrived, was the track conditions and the rain we had at 5 a.m. That is completely dispersed now. Not quite sunshine breaking through the clouds, but the forecast is very, very good for the next few hours. Almost like 0% of chance of rain. Humidity has dropped from 85 to 75%, and track temps have gone from 14 degrees up to 18. So we are nigh on perfect conditions for racing, and we should have a dry one right the way through towards the very end.
Yeah, just to say as well, personal bests in the first sector for Simon Riker as well, so starting to turn up the heat. He was faster than Zach Meakin in behind him, as you'd expect, and obviously Christopher Haase will be getting set and ready to take the second stint. Plenty of open doors here in this very long enduro. Of course, usually we follow the sprint format outside of the 500 that we've adopted since 2022. Of course, historically, we've had 70 and 60-minute races that have taken us through the weekend. We've got 2 500s to bring you this year, with the second one coming at the Temple of Speed Monza later on to close out the entire championship, which is going to be a thrill ride, that's for sure, and a great opportunity to get a first look here at Spa as to how this 500 could yet unfold, maybe even when we go to Monza, but vastly different circuits. A wider line taken by Riker coming in towards turn 1, which has compromised his escape coming out of turn 19 a little bit. This might offer an opportunity once more for Zach Meakin, and he's going to have to do something soon, because Luca Ludwig takes no prisoners where it comes to making moves out on track. He is a very classy driver who has done so well in the realms of Ferrari Challenge as well as of late, and I know he's well respected in the realms of Mertel's team. There is the legend Miguel Ramos, two-time GT Open champion from 2015 and 2020. He'll be sharing the track with Andrea Montemini when the driver change window opens up. Montemini, a champion for the first time in 2008, and he went on to do it again in 2013, and both of them share 20 overall race wins between them. You never know, bit of magic, it could happen again. I mean, what a special moment it would be in the Spa 500, of course. Andrea Montemini, they are in different classes. Montemini alongside Ludwig in pro class, and Samson alongside, of course, Miguel Ramos, the Portuguese sensation. They are occupying AM class, but they're looking for the AM class title this year as well. It's important to note, Ewan.
There would be bragging rights in the paddock if one of them were to pick up a win. But you know, this is Spa. We say no rain forecast, but this is the Ardennes. Anything can happen. And of course, you got safety cars, 3 driver changeovers. We could all dream that towards the end of this race, there's going to be somebody going for a 21st win. But at the moment, James Kell is looking unstoppable. Of course, Dean McDonald will be next to take over. Here's a replay of the manoeuvre. Who's this, George? Coming through on the outside, it is the 55. That is, of course, the AF course of Jamie Stanley and Laurent Demeus. The Belgian and GB races in the Ferrari Pro-Am competition. Going down the outside of Milota to take second place overall in the Pro-Am through roughly 12 laps completed is James Kell. He's just having a Sunday drive at Spa.
Well, it's not just the fact that he is in front, it's also the fact that he's got acres of clean air in front of him, and also behind him as well. The pressure, I mean, obviously there is still a lot of pressure to compete here in the International GT Open. Big points as well, mean big prizes, as always in motorsport. But to have a 14 to 15 second gap, it's 14.8 as they cross the line now this time, and Levente Ravesh still with it all to do, despite him faster than Kell over the last lap. Ravesh has done very well to lap in the 2:16s himself. Last lap was a 2:16.6, not his best, but still a very, very good lap, and ahead of James Kell at the end of the play over the last lap. But Kell has managed to advance that gap to nearly 15 seconds now, which is going to serve them so well when the driver change window opens up. But bear in mind, there will be handicaps to be taken, so we'll keep you posted as to how those work as we make our way through the race.
And of course there will be traffic as well for the very first time for the Greystoke in this race. At the moment they've got about a third, almost half of a lap, clean air in front of them. That will all change during the driver changeovers, and like I say, you throw a safety car in and 15 seconds goes to 0. So building a great lead, yes. Will it be to their advantage? Fingers crossed so. 14.9 the difference. Plenty more cars as well, must be said, lapping in the 2:17, so things are getting really quick out here. The likes of Robert Visso, you are 2:17.6. Luca Ludwig, he's one of the 3 cars only to go to sub 2:17. with a 16.852. Also has got the fastest speed on track at 270 kilometres on the button. Fastest man through the speed trap so far today.
Yeah, there are no slouches here, this Optimum pairing. Zach Meakin, who's in the car at the moment, is a GT4 champion from last year. Also third in British GT in 2023. And also made his mark in the International GT Open only last season as well. I mean, pretty much the same as Greystone. I know they're coming in for their full season campaigns here in this series. And sixth place at the moment, but on the tail of Luka Ludwig, who in turn is currently on the tail of Simon Riker. And it's been an impressive launch here from Ludwig, who has already managed to dodge and weave his way past Meaking, and on top of that, past Empson, past Bartone. He is past a sea of cars as Ludwig on his opening stint, and I'm sure Andrea Montemini is enjoying this from the Myrtel garage right now. It's all down to Riker to try and keep this phenomenal talent at bay. 5-second time penalty for track limits going to car number 5. Now that's Stanislav Jedlinski, who's at the very tail end of the field. Of course, Christian Korzanowski will be stepping in for him through the driver change period. Of course, part of the 4-car Ram class contingent that is racing around the circuit. It is being led by Mark Sampson at the moment. As now Riker looks to fly uphill with Ludwig very much in tow, looking for the tow before they head uphill through towards Les Combes in the Ferrari for Myrtel. As I said, this team, Myrtel, fledgling through the GT Cup Europe Championship, providing opportunities for female drivers as well as some of the best motorsport drivers across the globe to partner up with them as well, offering a platform for any passionate motorsport enthusiast. But now ushering their way into International GT Open for the very first time of asking. And I must say, they're really bringing it to the, well, certainly rising to the occasion here at the moment with Ludwig in the top 5, and Montemini, who has so much experience. It's been a little, well, hasn't been too long since we last saw him. 2023, he was, of course, racing for AF Corsa. Now back in a Ferrari machine once again. Of course, a former Formula 1 driver in years gone by. To look to the realms of 1994 when he was in the championship, and prior to that too, for various teams, including the likes of Forte and Simtech, and now back here in GT3 competition, and to flex those abilities that he does carry inside the Myrtel Ferrari this time around. But with 140 minutes, we're inside the 141 minutes at the moment. James Kell coming through out of the final chicane at bus stop. The driver change window, the first one, opens up in just under 3 minutes time. 2 minutes and now 50 to be exact.
Now, just looking at the timing screen here, James Kell is probably about 3 minutes away from catching the back of the field, because he's lapping around 6 seconds quicker, and he's only 2 corners behind those at the back, which is Jedlinski, Hernandez and Forgione. So therefore, if he comes up against traffic, does he dive into the pits early or does he leave it a little bit later? That is going to play into the tactics of the Greystone team. Of course, those behind, Ravesh 15.6 seconds back, he does have entirely clean air. You can just keep going and going and going. Of course, the later you leave it, the more traffic that comes out, the more likely it is that you do come up behind a car that's going a bit slower than you.
Well, the one benefit Greystone do have is they've got 2 very good drivers at the helm, as we saw from qualifying. Obviously, they're both able to lap at extraordinary pace. I mean, we saw Dean McDonald obviously pull out an astonishing result, came into the championship last season. Greystone actually getting their first win in the International GT Open last year. We look back at that Monza race that changeable conditions were on show, and they were the only team to plumb for a certain set of tyres, and therefore benefited in the early stages and built a gap very much like this one almost. Perhaps not as dramatic, but still nonetheless good to see. There's Mark Sampson in P25 at the moment, being chased down by Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim in the return of the Corvette Z60 to the international, or Z06 to the International GT Open grid, as they now come out of the first corner at La Source. Now a fly uphill. Of course, it's the first time we've actually seen Joe Hall Motorsport racing here in this series. 2018 they last came into the championship driving the Honda NSX GT3, but with the Corvette Z06 underneath them now, looking to give chase in a potential claim over an overall position of P25. It won't lead to an AM position loss here for Mark Sampson, because he'll still retain the AM lead, because Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim in Pro-Am class here in this race.
Now, I have not had a chance yet this weekend to go and see that Corvette up close. I'd love to do it later on today. Hopefully you get the chance. Now, you just mentioned a few minutes ago, the driver changeover is opening very shortly, and James Kell is now just half of a start-finish straight away from catching the back of the pack. That'll be the first time he'll have seen a car directly in front of him for over 25 minutes. Luca Ludwig trying his best to get round Simon Riker. That is the race for 4th position. Of course, Ludwig handing over to Montemilli very, very shortly. But if we stay as we are, Riker at the head of a train, little look to the inside. Ludwig says no, ditches to the outside. Not going to get round La Source that way.
No, still denied at the moment. Simon Riker, who is brilliant at defending places as well. I mean, he held the P2 for such a long period of time before Laventia Ravesh eventually pulled the plug on it. James Kell advancing the gap even further over the last lap, was again faster than Laventia Ravesh by 0.4 of a second, or at least maybe a little bit less than that, maybe just under just over 3 and maybe 3/4, but we'll wait and see. Now we've got the driver change window open. The first car's coming in. Dominic Baumann stepping in for Valentin Pierberg for the SPS Performance team. We've also got movements elsewhere as well. Dominic Baumann may be in, but so is Philip Salakada, who's going to be swapping in for Libor Milotta. Karel Bash gets his first start of the day, and he was so quick in qualifying. Blinken, you'll miss him, that's for sure. The pole who returns here to this series, a pole for a pole as Marcin Jedlinski hops out. We've got Marcus Pavarud as well coming in this time around as well. Ralph Aaron will be stepping in for Marcelo Ramirez, who was involved in that contact with Heiko Neumann earlier on. Alex Fontana coming in for Ash, who's had a solid first stint as well so far. Fabio Babini stepping in as well. And in comes the Corvette Z06 as Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim swaps out for Prince Abu Bakr Ibrahim at this time around. The Malaysian pairing looking to come back out, both of whom have had such incredible records in their own right in terms of GT racing, competing in the realms of GT World Challenge Asia in Pro-Am class, picking up a runners-up prize as well, with a victory and 2 podiums last time out. Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim, of course, this year.
James Kell's come in.
And also
James Kell is in.
Race leader into the pits as well. So yet more cars looking to undertake their pit stops, and that's a smart move, I think, from James Kell to avoid that traffic, as you so rightly referred to, Ewan. We're now seeing Dean McDonald, who was rapid in qualifying session, 1. We saw both of these drivers essentially pull Greystone into this position. This is why they started on pole position, but Dean McDonald, it's a like-for-like swap, in my opinion. Ewan.
Yeah, they were both in 2:15s, 2:60s. They were both quick. I mean, it was a combined fastest time, but individually they were right up there on their own. So the first car, more cars coming in. Laventia Ravesh will hand over to Max Goss, his new partner. Of course, championship second place with Cairoli from Portimao. Max Goss will jump in the driver's seat. Who else has come in? We've got the car number 4, so that means Zach Macon has also come in. So pretty much all of the front drivers. Of course, tactics heavily at play. Anthony Bartone comes in to change over in the Get Speed Mercedes. Ulrich are in. All happening.
And of course, serving the handicaps later on, they're still serving the standard at the moment of 85 seconds in the pits. Very clinical that they get that driver change window closed in very quick fire time. Steve Jans now moving into P3 on track. Rogolski up into 4th as now you can see them settling down in the garages. Nicholas Cruton coming in for Robert Visoyu, as you can see in the luminous green, should we say side wing mirrors, and the green 13 on top as well for Team Motor Park. There's the Rinaldi Racing Ferrari, the 45, making its way around the circuit. We welcome Rinaldi Racing for the first time here with Christian Hook, Felipe Fernandez-Laser, the 2 Germans coming in with the German Rinaldi Racing team, taking part, of course, both drivers, Christian Hook, GT Winter Series in 2024. It looks like they're quite busy here
goodness.
at Greystone GT McLaren. What on earth is going on here with Dean McDonald?
He's not even in the car.
No, what on earth has happened here for our race leader and pole sitter that had advanced the lead by over 15 seconds? There is clearly some technical misgivings going on, and Maximilian Gotz now out on track, has taken the race lead. Drama here at Spa.
Well, we said anything can happen. We said you got to build the biggest leads with safety cars, etc. We did not expect the the Greystone to come in. We saw Dean McDonald get into the car. The next time we had a look, he's outside it, pushing things in under the bonnet. We can't quite see it from our commentary position, but that is going to really shake things up.
And also in comes Stanislav Jedlinski to come in with Christian Kozanowski stepping in. They've received a second 5-second time penalty to be added to the race time later on, so that's certainly not going to help. In comes Christian Kozanowski. Stanislav will now jump out. Rogalski moves up to third. Aaron Walker is going to step in now as well, the young man from Herefordshire. And the Greystone McLaren in the distance, just in front of this Olymp Racing Ferrari, still being worked on at the moment. What is going on at Greystone at the moment? This is not something you can afford to do at a clinical race such as this. They arrived in contesting for the championship lead. They arrived in on pole after 2 exquisite qualifying sessions, but some serious misgivings going on clearly as they had the bonnet raised on the car.
And this is going to be almost, if they can't get out in the next 30 seconds, it's going to be game up. They're going to be a lap down. And this, oh my goodness.
This looks suspect.
This
Obviously,
is front, back and centre. Massive issues with the Greystone. Absolute disaster. Perfect start to the weekend. And they are not even rushing now. It's all gone downhill.
So whether there's, well, obviously, I mean, they're looking in the engine bay on the back of the McLaren 720S GT3, as now in comes the 28 into the pits as well. And this is the BDR Gruppo Prom, Amari Bondwell now taking the seat this time around. There's Lucas Dunner hopping in for Heiko Neumann after his initial stint, obviously falling victim to the spin earlier on after the contact that they received through turn 1. And so we're back with the Rinaldi racing car. Christian Hook now in the car, currently P5 overall and also P2 in Pro-Am class, just behind Jamie Stanley. Of course, Stanley still yet to pit for Laurent Demeus to jump in.
Well, currently leading the way, but it's, well, this will all settle itself over the next few minutes. Not many cars left. We're still seeing, and now, yeah, Dean McDonald currently lying in 28th position, 29th. They are going right from the front to the absolute pit end back.
Dean McDonald dead last now as he will face the next step. I mean, this could be a retirement here at this point. We're yet to get word on what's going on at Greystone, but one thing I will say is that they are currently routed to P29 as our timing screen records. The only driver that is yet to pass them is obviously the Olymp Racing Ferrari of Stanislav Jedlinski, now Christian Kozanowski, who of course got lapped prior, but this is effectively race win out of the question for Greystone now. All of a sudden it's thrown a bone now to Max Gertz and also Levente Ravesh, who come in off the back of a very successful Portimao round that saw them take the initial championship lead. Here's a side-by-side moment. Oh, a clip from the 63 Oregon team Lamborghini. That is the car that's being looked after by Artem Petrov and also in the initial stint by Anton Dokkan. Now we have the driver change period still going on here for this time Philip Ugran stepping in for Robin Rogalski. Of course, Ugran coming in from single-seater competition as soon as 2022, where he was competing in the Euro Formula Open Championship under the GT Sport organisation banner. He returns here now again, this time in the GT Open, after taking part in various races in the realms of ELMS for LMP2 class from 2022, 2024 as well. Also racing in Porsche competition and also raced in the 24 Hours of Le Mans back in 2023 in LMP2 as well. Also in WEC. There's now, oh, that looks like a retirement. It certainly is. The Greystone GT McLaren has been wheeled into the garage. What an upset here at Spa-Francorchamps, the legendary circuit. Greystone, who started on pole position, had a 15-second lead coming into the pits. They've retired the car. The doors are open. It's the end of play for Dean McDonald and James Cowell.
Now, they still look to be frantically working on that car.
So whether they can only do the work in the garage, perhaps, that's a possibility.
Maybe, because they were rushing around inside that garage. Now, of course, there are points for top 10, but every single second that passes makes it more and more unlikely. Yes, there's over 2 hours of this race to go, but
to me, that looks like they're out.
It is 100. They might get back out on track, but it'll be to get some testing in, that's all.
Yeah, well, they're now officially routed to 30th place because Christian Kozanowski has just come across the timing line and updated to 29th fastest. We got the incident involving cars 6 and 63. That was the Oregon team Lamborghini that came up close to Aaron Walker on the run-up through towards Eau Rouge and Rayon. That's being it's been noted from race control on the run-up through towards turn 2 and turn 3. That is just prior to Eau Rouge and Rayon. God, licking up the gravel this time around is the 11 belonging to Max Gertz. But we can talk about Gertz because, of course, what a sensation he truly is. What an acquisition as well for Motorpark, for Laventia Ravesh to have as well. The German driver coming in from British GT, taking 2 wins last year. There is Andrea Montemini. Oh no, I do apologise, Luca Ludwig yet to come in. Driver change window is still open for another 4 minutes, but Luca Ludwig in the car will be handing over to Andrea Montemini when he comes into the box. But yeah, eventually he will be taking the seat once more in the International GT Open in what has to be an amazing record of starts in this championship as well for Andrea.
148 today, I think we found out yesterday.
I believe looking at the stats, it might well be, as we now watch as Felipe Fernandez comes in for Christian Hook. The German team swapping the 2 German drivers around under the driver change window phase as we remain with 127.28 to go. There is Luca Ludwig. Now the question is, will he come in on this lap or does he go for one more? Will he have enough time as he now makes his way out of the middle sector through towards sector 3, barreling down through Campus and Stavelot through Corbeil Paul Frere, and has built a nice healthy advantage of 4.5 seconds to Tom Empson in behind. Remember, Tom Leben stepping in at elite as well. Max Gertz now moving past Fernandez up into 5th. Of course, they are our net leaders at the moment. Max Gertz representing Motorpark after Laventia Ravesh did the opening stint. So whilst, of course, they forfeited all that time after being stuck behind Simon Riker as Christopher Haase takes over the East Talent Audi this time around, they have now seen themselves move by default into the lead of the race after the issues the Greystone GT McLaren has faced. And indeed, Ludwig comes in. Montemini will be taking the wheel now at this very point here in this race.
And they will return onto the track in around about 5th position. I believe a handicap of 85 seconds though, George. That's a painful amount of time. So yeah, Gotts will be shortly, currently our virtual leader will be leader on track very, very shortly. Just a couple of the Pro-Am cars of Stanley and Bacci to come in and make the stops. They are the last 2 cars on track that have not done that. They've got to come in this time, surely. Just seeing the 55 come in and the 105 will follow. So racing out on track. That is Gotts leading the way. And Christian Haas behind Cruton in the 13. In comes the number 17, still in the pits, and the 55. 17 belonging to... that's the Elite Motorsport, Tom Leben and Tom Empson, sorry.
Jamie Stanley also swapping out for Laurent Demeus coming in as well. So 3 Ferraris in the pits at the moment, with Montemini now taking the helmet. Here comes now Max Gertz. Well, this is not Max Gertz, incidentally. This is, of course, the Bartone car, now at the helm with Fabian Schiller. Was very similar colouring between the 2 of them. Well, as I said, I know that...
that's Viso U, isn't it?
Indeed, oh, yeah, Viso U, apologies. Now Nicholas Cruton behind the wheel. Now Christopher Haase on the back. Like I said, very similar colours between the Bartone brothers. Get Speed Performance Mercedes. Get Speed Mercedes, indeed. Being closely followed by Christopher Haase on the run out of La Source. As now we watch as Andrea Montemini takes to the circuit. Comes out ahead of the Optimum Motorsport McLaren, who now looks to show in the back of Andrea Montemini. Now at the wheel, obviously, is Mikey Porter of this Optimum Motorsport McLaren now as they look to go wheel to wheel onto the grass. Very, very tight on the run up through towards Kemmel, and now Christopher Haase swarming all over the back of Nicholas Cruton as they come up through towards Les Combes. Here comes as well Andrea Montemini up the inside. Now comes the Bartone brothers of Fabian Schiller, who now marches on through, and also by extension through goes Mikey Porter, and now it looks like Montemini is going to drop down a couple of places. He's going to form up just in behind Mikey Porter now into 7th place, I believe, out on track. In fact, it might be 6th place now as it stands, with Mosca now looking to also find his way through past the Myrtel Ferrari.
I mean, to be fair to Montemini, when you come out the pits, you're being chased by hot tyres. He was just getting up to speed, literally, as he came out the pit lane. 3 or 4 cars all over him like a swarm. Another one
Here's
comes
Mosca.
through too. Mosca goes through, so that'll drop Montemini to 8th or 9th. No, not that bad, 7th position maybe. Gotts leading 13.1 seconds over Nicholas Cruton in the 13. And that is pretty healthy.
Very healthy indeed. Obviously, we're waiting for our timing screen to update, and you'll be able to see the results in real time. Alfredo Hernandez lining up with Stefan Trubadini here for this round as well. We welcome Stefan to the grid here this weekend. Obviously, Hernandez running as a solo entry back at Portimao last time out, but had a bit of a tough time with Stanislav Jedlinski through turn 2 and turn 3 at Portimao, where both cars came to a grinding halt. But Stefan Trubadini coming in for Spa 500 alongside Hernandez at PDR Grupo Prom, taking part in the LMS LMP3 in the past last year, well this year as well, and Lamborghini Super Trofeo AM class, and now looking to dive up the inside, this time on Andrea Montemini this time, but still committed to the outside, or at least briefly, was the Myrtel Ferrari, and now backing out as now Trubadini moves on through. But now heading down through towards turn 1, you can just see him behind, the flashing Tom Leben. On the back of Montemini as well, Artem Petrov in the 63 Oregon Lamborghini that won this race back in 2022. Of course, that was when Leonardo Polcini and Benjamin Hites were at the wheel of the car. As now uphill comes Christopher Haase on the attack of Nicholas Cruton over P2 on track. It is 2 motor parks currently sat at the very helm of the field, but now they're going to come under question because here comes Haase around the outside, coming through Lecom, and indeed, car in blaze at number 1, takes a lot of the off-track, committing to the outside, and now through Malmedy, on track in P2. We'll have to wait and see, though, whether the stewards allow that, but still, nonetheless, Haase up around the outside as now Tom Leben gets through past Andrea Montemini as well, and it looks like Christian Korzanowski is trying to move his way through the pack in his very own Ferrari 296.
So now we have the reigning champions chasing the championship leaders. Of course, Levente Revesh, who was alongside Matteo Cairoli at Portimao. A win and a 4th place for them. They lead currently James Cullen, Dean McDonald. There's going to be some massive shifting. Here's a replay of the move on Montemini, just up the inside from the golden liveried Mercedes numbered 77. That is the BDR Grupo Racing with Hernandez and Tremonti getting through at the bus stop chicane.
Welcome
no, it's not. Yes, it is.
Yeah, welcome. The 77, obviously being driven now by Stefan Trubadini. And getting past Montemini in that instance, obviously after Hernandez did the opening stint. They've got a bit of a mountain to climb, though. They are representing an AM class for this one, currently sat down in 28th at the moment, so they're really just trying to unlap themselves at this stage. Obviously, Montemini currently representing his driver pairing with Luka Ludwig. He's 8th place in the pro contingent at the moment, so inside the top 10, ahead of Artem Petrov, as Max Gertz now leads the way. After Levente Revesh's opening stint, they've got a great opportunity here at the moment with a 14.5-second gap, though. But Christopher Haase is a relentless force behind the wheel of any car. And here for Iselin back again for their 3rd successive season together, along with Simon Riker, after missing out on the driver's crown back in 2023. They took it in 2024, with them coming in as reigning champions. And they would love to do it again. They've got every chance of doing it again. But this, by far, one of the more, or certainly the most strongest field I think we have had in the GT Open, certainly in its modern period. So they fly uphill. And it looks like as well, Artem Petrov has managed to dodge and weave his way past Andrea Montemini as well, and registering P8 now on our timing screen. Aaron Walker now looking to also open up the door as well, the young man from Herefordshire in England. Now looking around the outside on the run-up through the Kemmel Straight and in towards Lecom, side by side, as they head uphill. They've got Christian Korzanowski still for company, and Aaron Walker dancing his way through, of course, leading the Pro-Am charge at the moment. Of course, coupled with Steve Jans as well. But ahead of Andrea Montemini now coming out of Lecom through, now down Rivage, out of Malmedy. A nice visit here from Walker, who is now 7 tenths away from Artem Petrov. And now looking for P8 overall.
Now, Simon Riker and Christian Haas, as well as being reigning champions, also third in the current championship.
A little bit of gravel taken up there, just to say, by Montemini. Got a little bit deep. Christian Korzanowski, sorry to interrupt you there.
No, he's not having the best start to his session. Oh, we're back out on track. Dean McDonald. Well,
back out on circuit.
4 laps down. So this is a testing session, to be perfectly honest, George.
Greystone, you have proved me wrong. You will indeed get back out on track. Welcome back to the circuit. Obviously, I'm sure they are absolutely despondent, though, in the garage. You can see there James Kell in the background. They cannot believe, I'm sure, that this has transpired at this very moment. Obviously, it looked like it was obscurity for Greystone GT. It certainly is at the moment, with the car currently routed in P30 after all the great work that James Kell and Dean McDonald put in qualifying, and the opening stint from James Kell that was mighty. 2:16s every lap near enough in the opening stint, but it's come down to a crippling halt obviously now, and they witness themselves chasing after the likes of Christian Korzanowski down in 29th, but they've got some work to do to try and close that gap. Speaking of Korzanowski, now all over the back of Montemini, just trying to unlap himself here in this juncture. Still a long race, though. Anything can happen. Safety cars, things of that nature, but they're going to need a lot of luck, really, to try and bring this delta in. But they've only completed 19 laps thus far, Ewan. Everyone else, 24, 23, or 22. And
Dean McDonald is sending that car as well. Last lap, 2:17.174. That's within the top 10 laps overall so far in this race. So clearly no long-lasting damage, just a gremlin somewhere that took them about 15 minutes to find. Utterly painful. But there you go, that is motor racing, that is Spa, that is GT Open. The gap at the front has come down to 12.2 seconds, so Christian Haas clearly got the wheels of that Audi solidly in his hands. Got 24 laps down. We are just under 2 hours remaining of this approximately 3-hour race, 500 kilometres of course, roughly 63 laps there or thereabouts. Lots dependent on that, of course.
Yeah, well, we're watching Max Gertz lead the way at the moment. Haas, though, eating into the deficit.
He's got loads of clear air, though, Gotts.
He certainly does, but his last lap was a 2:18.569. Now, whether there was traffic involved in that, I'm not quite sure. Gertz, obviously, a winner in his own right in various different championships. Of course, on record, DTM champion, has also done exceptionally well at the Nordschleife and Nürburgring. Christopher Haas, though, has also had his fair share of championship gold. And last lap, 2:16.633. And currently 12.7 away from Gertz in the very top, highest end of the order. Crutzen as well, still occupying P3. So it's still a double motor park podium as it remains right now. So
Alex Fontana has just done a 2:15.8. Alex Fontana is the fastest man on the track. He is, of course, in the number 31, the car collection motorsport with Hash. He's absolutely flying. They're currently 5th place in Pro-Am, but watch out Aaron Walker, Dominic Baumann, Philip Selacada, because Alex Fontana is coming.
Yeah, also the 188 belonging to Michele Rugolo. Well, the 21 car belonging to Michele Rugolo has been asked by race control. The team manager has been asked to report. We're going to take a look at a replay of the Sardo as we reach this very calmed period of the race getting underway. Greystone GT taking the initial advantage at the very get-go. Robert Visoyu attempted a very ambitious move around the outside, but was unsuccessful. We then saw some rubbing together between the likes of Andrea Montemini, Artem Petrov coming together up the hill as well. But this was actually earlier into the race. Luca Ludwig actually meeting Anton Dokan heading uphill, I believe, heading in towards Eau Rouge and Radion through towards Kemmel. There was then a move from Leventi Ravesh to finally take that P2 away from Simon Riker, and then he would manage to start ruffling in some of those 2:16s. His teammate as well, Robert Visoyu, would eventually also challenge Isolent Audi's Simon Riker for P3 after that, with then Zach Meakin tasked to try and get past as well. Now this was the crucial juncture, the crucial moment with a 15-second lead advantage. Greystone invited their car into the pits, but after some issues suspected with the car, they eventually wheeled it into the garage to commence work on it. Whilst, of course, they did so, they now find themselves 4 laps down at the moment, despite taking the fastest lap of the race last time out with a sensational 2:15.264. As far as Dean McDonald's concerned, he's still in this race, and he's going to do everything he can to mitigate mitigate the damage.
So Dean McDonald has got the fastest car on the circuit, but he's plumb last in 30th, 4 laps down. What needs to happen to get them back into this top 10 to at least get points? And don't forget, double points this weekend for the championship. It's absolutely huge. You can't understate it.
Well, I mean, if there's one team that understands what Greystone GT are technically going through, it's Motorpark. Because going back to seasons gone by, I look back to the time when, of course, Diego Menchaca and Marcos Seibert had their opportunity to win this race, going back, I believe it was last year, in fact. And, of course, it was. And, of course, they had that fueling issue back last year, which led to them forfeiting the lead and the race win. And it was heartbreaking. Of course, Menchaca, we saw his reaction in the pits as well during the pit stop. He was very animated. Understandably, I'm sure, I mean, obviously it's not quite to the gravitas of where Greystone GT sat. I appreciate it's still early into the race, but when you've got a 15-second lead at the highest end of the order, to then come into the box to make your driver change, and then all of a sudden something to go wrong, that is really, really unfortunate. As we're now watching is Christopher Haase, second place, now has brought the gap down even again. Wasn't necessarily as fast as Gertz on the last lap, as we now watch them side by side, as now the what looks to be the 13 belonging to Nicholas Cruton coming under scrutiny now, this time with a AF Corsa Ferrari. That's a 92 Ferrari at the moment of Mason Jabarian, who has now taken over the seat there. Of course, that's a lapped car, everybody. Also coming through, Fabian Schiller, closing out to the back of Cruton, now 1.8 away over the last lap. Schiller faster than Cruton by 0.8 of a second.
Now, for Cruton and teammates, they are currently in, where are they? 10th place overall in the championship. Back in Portimao, just got a couple of 9th place finishes. So for them, this would be massive as well. A 3rd place would get you, well, it'd pick them up 20 points, shift them right up the table. Loads to play for. Floating around that lead, still 13.5 seconds, 26 laps completed. 2.6 back to Cruton. And then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 cars, Schiller, Porter and Mosca, between 4th and 6th, and a big gap. So gaps starting to form throughout the front 10 races. Great to see still the number 6, Walker, alongside Steve Jans, who put such a great first stint in the Pro-Am class. They are just ahead of Montemini, who rounds out the top 10, 9th in class.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Gertz still leading the way, though it's the sister car of Nicholas Cruton now coming under fire, with Fabian Schiller very close up in behind now in the battle between the two Mercedes outfits. It's going to come to a head here, that's for sure, at this point during the race. Still more driver change windows to come, though. We've got 2 more to bring you before we then take on the final stint, as Schiller now gets very close and personal with Nicholas Cruton. 4.3 between Cruton and Haase right now over the last lap. Haase wasn't quite as quick as Maximilian Gertz. Gertz last lap, 2:16.274 against the 2:16.781 from Haase. So they head uphill now, through towards the Kemmel Straight. Here comes Cruton, Schiller on his tail. There is Christopher Haase, who is now taking the run up through towards Les Combes. Further back, there's Mikey Porter ahead of Tommaso Mosca, Tom Leben. Also then further back, but quite a ways back. In fact, behind Mosca, 6.7 seconds between them. As now we watch as Cruton now flies through towards Malmedy, heading downhill towards Rivage. But Schiller, who comes in with such a weight of expectation, a multi-time race winner in this series, along with the Bartone brothers Get Speed Mercedes outfit. Of course, he was also partnered up with Faisal Al-Zubair historically in this very race. And if we look back in the haulage of time that we have seen Schiller taking to this circuit, of course, various wins have come his way. And in the GT Open, that has fared no different, that's for sure. But as we now watch them take the middle sector once again, heading downhill, can give you some of Schiller's stats, actually, from historical appearances. 4 times a race winner in the International GT Open. But there'll be many more than that to come, I can assure you. But as they now come out of the middle sector, there is Haase, 14.2 now away from Gertz. It's going to be mightily hard to try and close that gap. As I said, Gertz, a sensational driver. I mentioned some of his exploits as a DTM champion of the past, but he's done a little bit more than that. Of course, he's won various different things in the past that course, include the 2 wins at British GT that I mentioned earlier on, but also winning in the 24 Hours of Nürburgring SP9. Also runner-up in 2022, DTM champion in 2021. Aside from that, taking part in the Blancpain Sprint Championship, he was champion in 2014 alongside GT Masters in 2012, and also the Formula BMW champion all the way back in 2003. What hasn't this man won, indeed? Now in first place with a chance to open his International GT Open account this season with an iconic Spa 500 win, but still a long way to go. Anything can happen. We've already seen Greystoke GT fall foul. You just never know.
I mean, if you say anything can happen, what we've seen just in the first driver changeover, you just can't predict it whatsoever. Now, just to bring you up to speed in the AM competition, championship leaders are Mark Sampson and Miguel Ramos. They took a first and a second back in Portimao in class. They are leading the AM class right now here in Spa by about 30 seconds or so. So a very good advantage for them. Of course, 2 more drive-over changeovers to come. And just shy of 1 hour and 50 minutes of racing as well. Long route towards the finish line.
Pro-Am battle as well here over Pro-Am third, actually, at the moment. Philip Salicado, who's been holding on to this position for quite some time. Currently sat 13th at the moment, but as we now watch as the number 20 of Dominic Baumann currently sits second in Pro-Am class at the moment, quite considerably ahead of Salicado by 11.7. Here comes Carol Bash up into Pro-Am third place. Not bad at all in the 31, also looking to follow suit of Alex Fontana as well, swapping to the inside on the run downhill through towards Rivage this time around, and Salicada is going to fall foul to 2 Pro-Am cars dodging above him through the ranks, and it's 4th place now for Alex Fontana. I mean, what a combination that is. Carol Bash and Fontana manacled together in a duel over P3 in Pro-Am, but on track, obviously, fighting over that P13 overall. And they're looking to both try and close up to the back of a very, very formidable Dominic Baumann, who in recent times in the International GT Open has returned after stints in, well, 2 subsequent seasons. A sporadic appearance back in 2023 with with Mikael Pitamba, who was originally partnered with Re-Spa and took some incredible victories in the past, but most notably back at Barcelona, we witnessed them take victory as well. We're going to witness the move here over Pro-Am P3 here and now from the viewpoint of Fontana's car here right now, and obviously the ISR Audi belonging to Salicada falling foul not only to Bash, but a beautiful switchback there from Alex Fontana, the Swiss talent who is so strong and oh so quick, as we now watch as Fabian Schiller flies uphill. Schiller, of course, chasing after Nicholas Crutzen at this juncture. Crutzen now coming up through towards Les Combes with Schiller in tow. Last warning has been delivered out to car 92 as well. Now that is Masoud Jabarian, and we've actually got team managers of car 92 to being asked to report to race control immediately. So race control's here obviously not happy with some of the conduct that has happened out on track involving the 92 of Masoud Jabarian. 105 minutes and 50 or so to go. 11 minutes and 50 until the next driver change. There's Aaron Walker, who is now on the back of Artem Petrov. This has been coming as well. Petrov going defensive. And now as they dive through Rivage, very defensive-minded effort there from Artem Petrov, looking to defend the place, a driver that has taken part in FIA Formula 3 in the past. Since then, moving into the realms of GT competition. And, of course, joined us last season in the International GT Open with the Italian Oregon team for Jerry Canaviccio and Pier Giorgio Testa, back for a full season run and driving the car that Leonardo Polcini drove last year alongside Ralph and Eichen, as well as the very car that won this race back in 2022.
Now, speaking of Aaron Walker, no stranger to success at Spa. He was a class winner in the 24 hours of Spa, so this is just 3 hours for him. And his teammate, Jans, who put him in such a good position. Let's have a little watch of this, first of all.
Looks like the Corvette, doesn't it not? Just in front here, we got Aaron Walker, and I think that's Petrov, actually.
And the Oregon gets stuck behind it.
Yeah, that's a little bit of an awkward moment. That is the Corvette, just moving to the outside, and it looks like Petrov somehow has found his way through. So there's Walker. So obviously, they were able to kind of maintain the status quo to a certain level. So Walker fancying just to you know, to allow them to do it in proper race trim, obviously getting caught up in behind that Corvette, the Z06, that's marking its first appearance in the International GT Open for the first time. A Corvette has been seen since 2013. The Z06, though, here with us in 2025. And Johor Motorsport returning to the series for the first time since 2018, where they were utilising the Honda NSX, as we now watch as we strike into the final 104 minutes. Long way to go here at the moment, and it's the 13 of Nicholas Cruton still holding firm ahead of Fabian Schiller. Really good driving so far from Cruton to withhold the pressure from Schiller, because he is not to be trifled with.
No, absolutely not. Like I say, it was at first round of the season in Portimao, just a couple of 8th place finishes, so this is a real jump up for them in terms of quality of driving. Great move up the outside up to Eau Rouge, and gets the job done as well. Who are we on board with? It was behind it from Olip Racing, yeah.
Yeah, Fontana just trying to dodge and weave his way through that. That's past Carol Bash, if I'm not mistaken, who was largely in front of Fontana for quite some time. But Bash also no stranger to making the big moves, opting for a change back into the Audi R8 LMS this time. Remember, started the season in their new Ferrari 296. Now, they've had debates about this in the past. I remember a time earlier in GT Open folklore where Bash and Jedlinski opted for the Mercedes AMG GT3 one year when we came into Portimao. But again, they opted to go back to the Audi R8 LMS. They're just so familiar with it. They feel more comfortable with it, certainly Marcin Jedlinski does. And this is a car that has granted them success as well in the past, winning Pro-Am championships, and they feel that they are better suited to taking this car through. And it's obviously, we love seeing an Audi R8 out on track, and Eastern Lent Audi have also been championing this car as well as ISR here in this series. But Alex Fontana, in his rapid turn of foot, his pace is extraordinary. There is Dean McDonald driving the McLaren that was boxed into the garage for a great deal of time, sacrificing their race lead after what looked to be a technical issue with the car, but since getting it back out on track. And whilst they're no longer in that lead contention after forfeiting that 15-second advantage, they do return out on the circuit, which is great to see. But here's the move. Majestic brilliance there from Alex Fontana, the Swiss talent. He's never too far away from a masterminded overtake. And just look at this, right on board with Fontana, heading uphill past Carol Bash through Eau Rouge and Radillon. Never a better place to do it.
Brave, isn't it? Incredibly brave. Dean McDonald has been knocking out the 215s back to back, and it's only when he had a little bit of traffic has dropped to 216, so he's been consistently the fastest car on track. The only other team to go sub 216 has been Alex Fontana, who has just moved into 3rd place in the Pro-Am category. He'll be handing back to Hash in a, well, that 5-10 minutes time, George, on the numbers.
Racing can be so cruel sometimes. I mean, 4 laps down now at the moment. They have done a great job in what was a 5-lap deficit to try and bring that down. Dean McDonald and James Kell, both quality drivers in their own right. 2:16.9 was the last lap from Dean McDonald, but he has been attempting to dodge and weave through the traffic to unlap himself. But we'll see. I mean, we've got 101 minutes left to go in the race now, as we see a little bit of a complication further back. This is the 20 of Dominic Baumann. Of course, he's got Philip Ugran for company. Now, it looks like he's got past Ugran because the Oregon car is in behind, and they're now meeting the 92 of Masoud Jabarian, who was, of course, handed that warning by race control not too long ago. The 26 also receiving a warning over track limits. That's Marcus Pavarud, as we now watch as a look at the inside this time. This is, of course, a lapped car that they're looking to overtake, and Dominic Baumann swiftly making his way through. Now, he's, if you remember, in 2nd in Pro-Am at the moment, and now it's the turn of Philip Ugran to lift his way through past this AF Corsa Ferrari that's now making its way through the Lafanier chicane. They're also being joined by Andrea Montemini, as well as in behind Alex Fontana will be looking to try and close his gap as well. But they've also got Christian Korzanowski, Philip Ugran getting into the gravel, but good recovery in the 19 Lamborghini Huracan GT3.
So races throughout the entire field. We're still at 14-second lead for Gotts. We'll leave him be for the time being. Tell you if there's any changes, but this is the battle we're focusing on. And it is 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, we still got traffic at the front there. That is the 92, just holding things back in the Ferrari. So 3 more cars to get past. And then the Oregon is going to get the next attempt at it as they come down through. Is that letting them through towards the bus stop chicane? Yes, it is. Goes deep, though. Goes very deep.
Yeah, very, very deep indeed from Philip Ugran. Just was so keen to get the move done past Masoud Jabarian. in order just to get past the lap traffic, and it looks like Andrea Montemini is going to do exactly the same in the Myrtel Ferrari. Two Ferraris wheel to wheel. As the 296s meet together coming through La Source, it gets very tight. That pinch point, that wide circuit becomes very, very narrow. All of a sudden coming through turn one is then Christian Korzanowski, who's also looking to unlap himself as well, has done so now, getting past Masoud Jaberi, and he is only 2 laps down now off the lead lap that's being put together by Max Gertz at the moment. Haase again eating into the deficit. It's 13.7. He was faster than Gertz only by just under a tenth of a second. It was around 800ths between them, nearly to the very thousandth between Gertz and Haase, as we now watch them climb the hill, leading through towards Les Combes. It looked like the Corvette was having a side-by-side moment as well. Of course, Prince Abu Bakr Ibrahim now at the wheel of that one. So now Philippe Hugran dives down into Ravage with Andrea Montemini for company. As we talk about form in the past, Mercedes with 20 wins, 20 wins at their disposal here in the International GT Open. No one has been as successful, though, in the International GT Open as Ferrari. Ferrari, the only manufacturer to have over 105 wins, or over 100 wins in this series. The closest car to it is Porsche, and they've only got 37.
Yeah, it's an incredible run of form, isn't it? So let's have a look right down then as we keep our eyes on this battle for 3rd, 4th, 5th place. In the Pro-Am, Aaron Walker above Dominic Baumann by 5 seconds. And then, as we know, Alex Fontana, 2 pro cars in between him and second position, but a good dozen or so seconds down the track. And after getting past Carol Bash, he's built out a lead of 2.5 seconds, so fairly solidly in third as the lights flash on the number 11 of Gotts to say, get out my way, I'm in the lead, I'm coming through, this is my race right now.
Pro-Am battle here as well, Ewan. We've got Tom Jackson on the back of Laurent de Meus. Of course, taken over from Jamie Stanley after the last driver change window. Speaking of which, we've got it coming up again in 3 minutes and 20. So we ride on board once again with Maximilian Gertz, who's now got traffic to deal with the Vermana by Get Speed right in front of him at the moment. So now to run out of Jackie Expen, and incidentally, this is the fight between Laurent de Meus and Tom Jackson that we're currently watching unfold as well. And we got to see this livery on this Vermana by Get Speed, and they've got a giant fish on the front end of the car, which is extraordinary. Catch of the day, obviously, and this is the catch of the day here for Max Gertz as he looks to unlap him, looks to add yet more laps upon the car that sits currently in 24th place. And next on his list will be home nation hero Laurent de Meus, as they now cruise through out of Corbeil-Paul Frere through Camus and Stavelot this time around. And just look at the turn of foot there indeed from the Mercedes-AMG GT3 as de Meus gladly allows him to move on through, coming through Blanchimont. That is not his race. Max Gertz still advancing his charge up at the front, but Haas is still eating away the deficit. It's 13.1 now.
Well, that traffic has cost him probably a second and a half. Of course, Cruton's got 2 things to look at in front of him, and right behind still, Schiller, just 0.6 of a second. So looking in both directions doesn't give you the opportunity that you would have with clean air just to absolutely rip it up the track and go for it. Here are the 2 guys that we are talking about, Cruton and Schiller. Schiller in the Audi, chasing the man in front. And it won't get it done through the bus stop chicane. Haase, in second position. And that will be traffic then, won't it?
Yeah, Christopher Haase having a look at the inside, just breezing through the 21. But now gladly lets him through. That's Michele Rugolo, who forfeits the track position there, just to allow Haase to gather himself past. There's the number 4, Mikey Porter, who will be handing over to the Zach Meakin again when the driver change window opens up, but remaining in a very strong position in 5th place. Fabian Schiller just in front of him, who's still trying to barrel after the fellow Mercedes AMG GT3 and Nicholas Cruton. This battle has been ongoing for quite some time. Of course, it might be the case that maybe one of them decides to dive into the pits just to avoid the dirty air, essentially, at the moment. Of course, every moment, every minute matters, every second. Warnings going out for track limits as well. Team managers for car 26 and 108 being asked to report to race control immediately. That's Marcus Pavarud and the 108 number Tom Jackson, who we saw closing after Laurent de Meus. That's the big fish that we saw on the front of the car. A little wider line taken from Mikey Porter on that occasion in the McLaren 720S GT3 for Optimum, who, like we said at the top of the show, race winners here at this very race back in 2023 with Charlie Fagg and Sam Dahan en route to becoming champions. Now they head downhill through Pouhon and now down through towards the La Fanier chicane. Indeed, for Mikey Porter, a GT4 European Series Silver Cup driver from last year, British GT last year, finishing second. And before that, Ginetta Junior action in 2022 and 2023. We've seen similar routes to racing here from the likes of Tom Empson, Tom Leben, who just recently won their GT4 European Series Championship. And I must say there's lots to come in the future for those two drivers, certainly in the realms of GT3. Of course, Tom Leben was a champion in 2024 in the GT4 European Series with Josh Ratican. Was third in the GT4 Winter Series last year as well, French GT4 Cup Silver. He also took part in 2024 as well. But prior to that, it was Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine in 2023 and GB3 in 2021, finishing third in the championship back in 2022. In comes now Lauren de Meijers as the driver change window opens, and Jamie Stanley will hop straight back in as now they look to get a very nice pacey pit stop in full swing. Lauren de Meijers hopping out straight away, and Jamie Stanley, they have rehearsed this time and time again, of both Stanley and Lauren de Meijers. A long-term teammate partnership that has existed for many years. Of course, acting driver coach is Jamie Stanley for Lauren de Meijers and does a great job at it as well. We'll wait and see where they come out after all of this now. They're not the only ones coming into the pits, because so does Tom Leben, and Tom Empson will be hopping in as well. Standard 85 second handicap, well, standard 85 second pit stop to be applied here as normal. So therefore they'll be hoping to get a nice swift tyre change on board as well. As you can see there, new rubber, new Michelin tyres now drilled into the front of the car as they look to tighten the nuts on it. In comes as well the Oregon team Lamborghini number 19, Philip Ugran, popping into the pits as well. And no question, Robin Rogalski will retake the seat. Philip Ugran in his first season of International GT Open competition. Certainly not the first time he's witnessed or become part of sports car racing. The legend Andrea Montemini coming in as well. In comes the Corvette of Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim, Prince Abu Bakr Ibrahim, should I say, coming out as well, as they look to swap over ahead of the next stint. And it will be the third stint in this race before we then witness a final driver change period to take us through to the end of the race. So it's very key. Now, every pit stop counts, but that is one beautiful looking Corvette.
It is fantastic, isn't it? The next 6 or 7 minutes absolutely crucial for this race as we reach the halfway point. Second changeover of 3. There's a warning for car 5 for track limits. That is Christian Korzanovsky down in 29th place. Dean McDonald has just set a purple sector in sector number 1. Who else is coming in? None of the front runners right yet. They might go right to the end of this. Christian Haas goes through again.
I would imagine Gertz will probably take the mammoth stint, I would say, lapping and around 2:16s. But if you remember, Ravesh was lapping 2:16s as well. I would say they've almost got a like-for-like swap in many ways, but you would argue that maybe if you look at the finer details, maybe Gertz lapping in the early 16s, they want to maintain that momentum.
Yep.
Haas, no doubt, will take the longest stint possible in a bid to try and at least shave off more of that lap delta between him and Gertz in terms of the top end. Easterland have a great chance of getting a result here in this Spa 500, and following suit from back in 2023 where they would take Optimum all the way. Christopher Haase and Simon Riker putting themselves in a position where they could yet be successful here in the Audi R8 LMS in what could be a historic moment, certainly considering where they currently sit in the championship after the first round. They weren't expecting any heroics back at Portimao, but if you look at the results, they were absolutely sensational. We'll look at it in detail. Runners-up in race 1 back at Portimao, and for Peter Riker and the team, it felt like a victory, because they didn't think that they would have necessarily the characteristics with this car to be successful that day, and any podium would have been classed as a victory in their eyes. And also the P5 was very strong as well, so they will, I'm sure, be looking to leverage themselves to the higher echelons of the championship, and much to their advantage with Greystone falling like they have done, despite Dean McDonald's brilliant laps these ushered in since rejoining the circuit. this will offer Easterland Audi so much in their pursuit of Greystone GT in the championship.
Now, you see on screen there, almost a second a lap being gained by Dominic Bowman over Aaron Walker. That is the race for the lead in Pro-Am. There is now just 1.67 seconds between them. That was a fairly hefty gap. And this will play now into the tactics of our second changeover. Look, if I'm being caught by a second a lap, let me get in the pits and change over here. Something needs to change ever so quickly. Whereas for Dominic Bowman, let me keep going. I'll keep going right to the bitter end of this changeover. In comes Ravesh. Gott's coming in. Ravesh is going out.
Max Gertz coming into the pits for yet another driver change. Levente Ravesh at the ready. Both drivers have been lapping very strong in the 2:16s. That's the optimal that they managed to put together as well. Haase, no surprise. He's going to continue out on track with Simon Riker, I'm sure, stepping in later into the driver change window period. Marcelo Ramirez also stepping in to his Mercedes-AMG GT3. Amir Naran also stopping in as well. Tom Jackson leaping out of the car in the 108 Mercedes. As you can see now, Naran being strapped in as it stands. He leaps into the car as they look to get this driver change period over and done with. And obviously we're still quite a hefty level of this race still to go. Haase confirmed as your on-track race leader for now, as we see some side-by-sides here with Aaron Walker in the number 6. Mercedes in the Pro-Am class now dodging and weaving past Artem Petrov. They've been manacled together for quite some time and they're towing along Dominic Bowman. So we've got the 2 Pro-Am, Ps1 and Ps2, now batched together. Here as it stands, as they now fly up through Eau Rouge and Radion. We've got an on-track contest in front of us here, but they're separated by Artem Petrov in the Oregon.
So Alex Fontana, as we've mentioned, has been closing this gap lap after lap after lap. Can he get past Artem Petrov, or a lot of that good work is going to be undone if he's stuck in this Oregon traffic jam? Whereas, of course, Aaron Walker will be absolutely delighted. So it's Walker, Bowman, Fontana, your top 3. Fontana, we know, was one of the fastest men on track, still in 3rd position, 9 seconds back, 3rd in Pro-Am. So can he get through? Dominic Bowman, all over the tail of the Oregon of Artem Petrov, has a little look on the outside lane, doesn't take it that occasion.
He needs to get past as well, because it's allowing at the moment
Aaron Walker
to get away and consolidate that on-track lead advantage. Obviously, we still have pit stops to consider. Car 21 receiving a 5-second time penalty for track limits, as well as McKenny Rugolo receiving that. So they're fighting in AM class at the moment, 2nd in AM on track with Miguel Ramos and Mark Sampson, who have had a fantastic race so far. They're currently 16th overall. Bear in mind, pit stops are ongoing. We're still yet to see them take their next stop as we see more cars come into the pits. And this is Christopher Haase. So Haase coming in probably a little bit earlier than we perhaps would have expected, but Simon Riker very capable behind the wheel. There's no question of that at all. And Haase, after a brilliant stint to try and rein in the delta that Gertz pulled off, obviously now it's all on Ravesh to try and keep the pace levels up in order to ensure that they don't lose any time through this pit stop and driver change phase.
Yeah, it's going to be a fascinating. I know we're only going into the 3rd leg, but the 4th is going to be absolutely incredible.
Well, Ravesh is currently 12th overall at the moment. Of course, bear in mind, every car above him still needs to box, but
absolutely,
Petrov has come in now this time as well, so Anton Dokkan is going to come in at Oregon too. So he doesn't need to be held up here, does Ravesh? Needs to really start managing their delta, managing the lap times. He's only 1.8 behind Salakada at the moment. In comes Artem Petrov. Anton Dokkan now looking to hop into the seat. And that
helps Dominic Bowman chasing Aaron Walker as well.
It does.
It's now a 1-2 race and no traffic in between them.
Absolutely. So Bowman can just focus on that clear air and get himself a little bit closer to the back of Aaron Walker, who has been lapping fairly strongly as well. They're hopping now above Riker in terms of the on-track classification, but that'll all change as soon as they come into the box. There is the number 9 of Fabian Schiller, still chasing after Nicholas Cruton. And obviously I'd imagine that Schiller will do the mammoth stint here with 5 minutes to go in the driver change window. He might take one more lap and then come into the pits.
We shall see. We've been wrong on occasions and right on some too. So this is the on track 1 and 2, not the virtual 1 and 2. There is the car, the beautiful golden liveried Mercedes of the car number 28. That is the BDR Grupo, Bonduel and Dorbecker. They are currently sitting in 18th position overall. Again, these are temporary positions until we end this changeover. It's all mixed about at the minute. The dust will settle for us.
Home race weekend as well for Amaury Bonduel, because he's Belgian. Last year actually made an appearance for Oregon team last year too. Into the box, number 13, Nicholas Crutzen, finally coming into the pits. So Robert Visoyu will now regain control of that car. Schiller staying out as we'd expect. So now the question is, does Schiller come in on this next lap, or does he stay out? I would imagine it'll be this lap that he looks to come in. But into the pits comes Nicholas Crutzen. Robert Visoyu waiting to jump in as well. Now, all being well, this could be, after all the bad luck the Motor Park have had in previous years in this very race, because I hate to say it, Diego Menchaca and also Marcos Seibert had oodles of misfortune over the last couple of years in this particular race. Has the broken mirror finally worn off? Because we have got a situation where they could yet do a 1-2 here at Spa.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, it'd be great to see for them, absolutely, for sure. A few more coming in. We got the 2 Mercedes. And that will bring us to around about half, just over half of the cars have been in now by my maths. Only got just over 3 minutes and 10 seconds. So it's going to be right now, or they're going to be right on the button if they go for one more time round. It is, of course, a 2-minute 20 roughly lap time. There is the car number 5, the Olymp Racing of Jedlinski and Kornizdanovsky. They were rolling round, unfortunately, back of the AM category at the minute. And there is Schiller continuing on. Will he go round one? No, he's had his stop already, hasn't he, of course?
Well, no, he's got to come in.
Oh, looking at 2 stops. Yeah, of course. So will he be this time?
I'd imagine it would be.
Got to be. It must be.
It's a 2-minute 16 lap at best, really. That's from what we've seen from the faster times that we've witnessed on the board. Obviously, Schiller at the head of the field in terms of the on-track action. But the good thing for him is that he has had an opportunity to work in the clean air without, obviously, the fact that he's had, you know, Nicholas Crutzen in front of him all this time. So he's benefiting now off some clean air. He can focus on nailing some of these faster laps. The big question is, will he now jump Robert Visoyu when he comes into the pits? Obviously, as all the cars unfold. Of course, Robert Visoyu will now be well behind Schiller as it stands, but Schiller's going to come in now, either now or the next lap. I would imagine this lap, though, because we're now coming into the final 2 minutes. Here he comes now. Yes, Schiller, on-track race leader, into the pits as it stands. And the big question is, does Robert Visoyu pass Fabian Schiller or Anthony Bartone, as it will be, coming out of the pits? Obviously, we know that given the fact that Simon Riker will obviously be coming around in second, we'd expect. Levente Ravesh solidly at the top at the moment. He is our net leader of this race at the moment. Only 4 cars above him that are still yet to pit, including Bartone and Carl Bennett, who now comes into the pits as well, as now the driver change now gets underway. Fresh tyres put onto that Bartone Brothers Get Speed racing car, the Mercedes AMG GT3 that has had success already historically in this championship. Bartone now strapped in. In comes Alex Fontana, and in comes Dean McDonald. James Kell looking set to take over once again, as he did for the opening stint of the race. Obviously, they're in a very different set of affairs now since James Kell was last in the car, as now Fontana hops out. In comes Hash for his second run. The man from the United States who has really developed really well over the last couple of years and improved no end since joining the championship. The 77 as well stepping in too. This is Stefan Tribadini coming out for Alfredo Hernandez, who took the opening stint as well earlier into the race, as they look to grow their position. Obviously at the moment coming into the pits, they are 3rd in AM class at the moment. And Heiko Neumann steps in for Lucas Dunner, who also... These two were representing in Pro-Am as well, but unfortunately came victim to a spin on Heiko Neumann's first stint earlier on after being tapped in the rear coming through La Source. There is Anthony Bartone now climbing up through Eau Rouge and Radion. I'm keeping my eyes peeled on Robert Visoyu at the moment, as now we see Hash leave the pits. Also in behind, we've got the Rinaldi racing car as well. They're going to be making a change, taking Christian Hook out of the car with Felipe Fernandez Laser now jumping into the seat. The driver change window period is now finished, and Viso Yu has indeed come out behind Anthony Bartone. So that crucial last lap from Schiller. Oh my goodness! That is Bartone! The commentator's curse in full flow yet again, and back on circuit goes Anthony Bartone. Now, has Viso Yu jumped him on the way down through, well, out of Les Combes? Trying to understand what might have happened. We're going to take a look at the replay, and indeed, that's Robert Viso Yu. This was the battle I was expecting. Remember Schiller? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness me.
Stewards' inquiry.
I would imagine the stewards will be taking a long look at that one, that's for sure. Robert Viso Yu coming together with Anthony Bartone on the run up through towards Les Combes. That will
be
punishing.
Looked at. Yeah, that will definitely be looked at.
Really unfortunate. Obviously, I expected them to come out together because, of course, Schiller went out for that one extra lap to try and obviously pull off an overcut by all intents and purposes to give Bartone the platform to try and challenge Viso Yu and Nicholas Cruton. Obviously, Cruton coming in a lap earlier. Obviously, they came out very much in harmony. But then, of course, it all unfolded, didn't it? I mean, Bartone, to be fair to Schiller, was ahead of Viso Yu coming up through towards Les Combes. It was Viso Yu trying to make the move. Very aggressive defensive position from Bartone as well. I think that's going to be questioned by race control, but we'll wait and see what they decide to do.
And Meekins through as well into fourth position. Right at the top, Ravesh over Simon Riker once again for his second stint. That is now 19.4 seconds. They gained 5 seconds just somewhere in that changeover window. Quite astonishing. Flashing on the headlights to, come on, let me through, boys.
Yeah, that is.
And they will make way.
That's our race leader, Ravesh, looking to try and make his way through the lap traffic and just letting them know, making them aware that they are our race leaders, looking to move their way through the lap traffic. Just to say, race control have noted the incident between cars 9 and, of course, 13. That was at turn 5 coming into Les Combes between Robert Viso Yu and, of course, the other Mercedes of Anthony Bartone representing Get Speed for Bartone Brothers. It's now the Porsche, of course, belonging to Babini and Johannes Zelger now giving way to allowing Levente Ravesh through. That was nice and calmly done. Credit to Levente Ravesh because, I mean, talk about maturing as a racing driver. He certainly has done that as Luca Ludwig on his return to the Myrtel Ferrari for his second stint draws up past Hash, who now takes over from Alex Fontana. So that's Ludwig now ahead of the Pro-Am into 11th overall. Now flying up through a Rouge and Radion, tackling the long straight and looking to build that gap ahead of Hash, and now looking to also dive into the delta of Tom Emson, who we're currently seeing in the Elite Motorsport Ferrari climbing the hill, and in between them comes the car belonging to James Kell and the Greystone GT McLaren 720S outfit, in their hopes of at least restoring something in this race after losing the lead in unfathomable circumstances. We'll be curious to find out what indeed happened to that car after that first stint. Team manager for car treble 7, that's the Audi for Olymp Racing. The Carol Bash is handed over to Marcin Jedlinski. They've got to report to race control immediately, so we will, of course, let you know what unfolds from that, if anything does indeed. Here's the move from Luca Ludwig up the inside of Hash, coming through turn 1. Not a class battle at all, obviously a pro car meeting a Pro-Am, but in terms of overall track position, it's a P11 visit for Luca Ludwig, and now in pursuit of Tom Emson. There's our race leader, Levente Ravesh. At the moment, 18.9 ahead of Simon Riker. He's building that gap now, though I will say, Riker faster than him over the last lap, but that was due to traffic.
Yeah, so back to where we were about 45 minutes ago with one car with a very comfortable lead. It was the Greystone. It is not anymore. It is now the Team Motor Park of Levente Ravesh and Max Gotts. 19 seconds to the good, then a further 10 seconds back from Riker to the Mercedes of Viso Yu, the McLaren of Meekin about 1.4 back, and then Anthony Bartone, the Bartone car. So 3 Mercedes in the top 5 cars sandwiched, and in fact That's the most impressive thing for me. So if you look at the graphic on your screen now, 3 of the top 4 cars have not moved in their overall positions. So qualifying has been such a good window into how these cars are going to perform. Of course, the one that is really missing is the Greystone. As we know, we won't keep going back to it, but that's dropped right down the field. And Levente Ravesh from 5th place on the grid, leaders, and by some distance as well.
Yeah, certainly are. We've also got to factor in that there will be the handicaps to be applied coming through to driver change window 3. So we look forward to seeing how that unfolds. Bear in mind, Alex Fontana and Hash have got to serve some themselves as well. They're actually over 100 in terms of the amount of seconds they have to spend inside the pits. So they have got to try and margin something out of this. Hash has got to go to work. They're in Pro-Am class, of course. Steve Jan's currently leading that contingent ahead of Valentin Pierberg for this one. Now, speaking of AM leaders, of course, Mark Sampson, who's been in charge, they've been leading the AM class right through this race thus far after the brilliant opening stint, certainly, well, the brilliant second stint also after Mark Sampson's strong first stint. Also for Miguel Ramos as well in the second stint. They also have over 100 seconds to serve. Team managers for car treble 7 and 13 to report to race control immediately. We've got a steward's decision over car treble 7. 5-second time penalty to be added to the race time, less the handicap. So that is the Pro-Am car of Carol Bash that currently sits, it would be Marcin Jedlinski this time around in behind the wheel of the car this time around, and he sits 14th and in Pro-Am 4th at the moment, so not on the podium right now.
Mark Sampson's car, so you mentioned the AM competition, they've got to serve a 100-second penalty. They are the current... Handicap, sorry.
Yeah.
They are the current leaders by only 2 points in the AM competition, and they're currently leading by 50 seconds in total, so that should be by far a healthy enough gap. On screen, it is Zach Meakin in 4th place in the Optimum Motorsport, chasing the 13 of Viso Yu. That is the current battle for 3rd position, and they are roughly 10 seconds behind the top 2, Riker and Ravesh. So the first 6 cars all in the pro competition. Steve Jan's leading Pro-Am in 7th overall, 3.5-second lead over Valentin Pierberg. Now, Steve Jans, I did find out something interesting about him. I'll try and find it shortly. 43 laps completed. 72 minutes of racing to complete.
Yeah, great to have Steve Jans back in the series. Always a smiling figure. Always have time. Steve Jans has time for anybody. He's a wonderful guy. Obviously, and a brilliant racer as well in his own right. Team managers car 13 to report to race control immediately as well. That's Robert Viso Yu, just to say. Now, I wonder if that's in relation to the incident at the top of the hill with Anthony Bartone. That occurred at the top of turn 5 as we see some gravel dust kicked up there coming out of the Lefania chicane through towards Campus and Stavelo. There is Zach Meakin, who did the, of course, pulled off the opening stint earlier on in the race. As we come down very soon into the final 70 minutes, we're almost at the point where we're in conditions of a usual standard GT Open race at this moment, so still a lengthy portion of it to go. Plenty of opportunities for cars across the grid. Warning flag as well for car 55 now as we see a side-by-side as it looks like Robert Viso Yu looks to try and dodge and weave through the traffic, this time getting past the BDR Grupo Prom 77 of Alfredo Hernandez, who currently sits 3rd in the AM class, and now Zach Meakin has got to do the same as he looks to move on by in the McLaren 720S GT3. Just looking to compare the times over the last lap as well. It was a 2:18.763 for Robert Viso Yu. Faster this time for Zach Meakin with a 2:17.932. Not going to break the bank necessarily in terms of fastest laps because, of course, Levente Ravesh has been lapping in the 2:16s a couple of times. Though has actually lapped 1.5 seconds faster than Simon Riker, hence why the gap now is 20.1 seconds as it stands. But Zach Meakin comfortably moving past Hernandez now as we see the sister BDR Grupo Prom car that's being driven by the likes of Amari Bondwell, the number 20 one that's currently being driven, or should I say, sorry, no, the SPS Automotive Performance of Valentin Pierberg, obviously just getting gold and silver mixed up there. There is a little bit of gold trim on that car. But Valentin Pierberg, 2nd in Pro-Am at the moment and running really strongly as well, and really close up to the back of Steve Jans too. So a very fascinating Pro-Am battle we're witnessing at the moment.
Well, that is Steve Jans flashing his lights, just coming towards your screen now. He has lost a little bit of time over the previous 2 laps. Of course, it is Pierberg chasing in the number 20. There he goes in the gold and silver Mercedes. He's got chasing on his tail as well in the form of Dokwan, who is in the pro class, so not racing directly against each other, but being flashed to say, yeah, come on, my turn to get through as well. He's got his own race to concentrate on. I don't see that happening whatsoever. They are chasing, this is in overall order as well, not just pro and pro-am. So there'll be absolutely no making way. And it does seem like Steve Jans is just making up a little bit more time now, up to 3.5 seconds. Looking very comfortable in the Mercedes. In front of him, the 51 of Bennett's pro competition, 5th overall. But that is 18 seconds up the road. So that is traffic coming up in front of Steve Jans. There's the 188, that's Mark Sampson, leader in the AM competition. Again, about a 50-second lead they've got. They've been absolutely firing on all cylinders through the first hour of this race.
Yeah, they've done a brilliant job. Mark Sampson, who has also been representing Garage 59 alongside Miguel Ramos, the Portuguese sensation, who is also a former 2-time international GT Open champion. We've mentioned, of course, 2015, 2020, and also most successful in terms of race wins, coupled with Andrea Montemini as well. Well, they both raced together in the Golf 12-hour as well, and were winners in class there too. You can just see there was some gravel just littered across the circuit as well, coming out of Melmedi. So that's something the drivers are going to have to be aware of in terms of maintaining their tyres at the moment. But yes, it's been a great race from Mark Sampson and also Miguel Ramos in AM class. And speaking to Miguel Ramos, as we have done so, we've done a few interviews now with him through the course of the season, speaking to him about the championship as a whole, and they have their sights set firmly on this AM championship this season, and who is anyone to question their viability for that, because they have been absolutely stellar as now Levente Ravesh breathes past, of course, our current overall race leader. So we got AM leader and overall leader now meeting again here this time around. Car 13, though, 10-second time penalty for causing a collision with car 9. So that's Robert Visoyu in 3rd place.
That
so a
coming.
major twist. Yeah. 10 seconds. And that throws a bone, an olive branch, to Zach Meakin.
That will put Zach Meakin, well, he's only 0.6 behind, so that will put him right 9.4 to the good after the next changeover.
And this is the moment, of course, with Anthony Bartone, and obviously we noted that there was going to be some stewards' intervention here. Of course, he was very defensive. Here was Bartone, but at the end of the day, he did have his car ahead coming into the apex, and therefore race control have deemed that Robert Visoyu will be landed with a 10-second time penalty, which is going to certainly hinder them ahead of the remainder of this race. So watch this space, folks. McLaren with another chance, with Greystone perhaps losing out due to misfortune. It might be the turn for Optimum Motorsport to turn up the heat here in the final stages of this race, with one more driver change window to come in 16 minutes and 45.
Well, that 10 seconds of Visoyu would actually, if you put it onto the track right now, would drop him almost into 6th position, because you've got 1 second back to Meakin.
But Bartone as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Bartone's only sort of 7 or 8 behind. Then 2 back to Bennett.
Carl Bennett,
so
yeah.
by the time we have these changeovers, that will be absolutely huge.
Will be massive. Of course, Carl Bennett will be handing over to Tommaso Mosca, the rapidly fast Italian, through for the final stint, and of course a driver that is a champion in Italian GT endurance. This is the type of racing that Tommaso Mosca thrives in, and I'm sure he'll look to enjoy it as well, and he'll be bringing the car home for the remainder of this stint when the driver window opens up. In fact, he's twice a champion, twice a reigning champion. He won it in 2023 and 2024 as Anton Dokkan now moves into 8th place for Oregon Lamborghini as well. So now as we watch as Zach Meakin here in this juncture with 65 minutes and 40 to go, now on the tail of now the recipient of the 10-second time penalty, Robert Visoyu, now as they dive down through Rivage. It's now going to be a case that Visoyu is going to have his wits about him. Of course, Nicholas Cruton will be stepping back behind the wheel later on to bring the car home. So they need a fully committed remainder of this race to undo the damage that 10-second time penalty has done. But obviously it's going to be a huge mountain to climb.
Driver's change starts in 15 minutes' time. Now, Visoyu will be aware, certainly, of that 10-second penalty. And his job now, his second and final stint, is going to be foot to the floor and try and make sure whoever is in fifth and sixth are outside 10 seconds of the lead when the changeovers happen. Because the order they come back out in is going to be absolutely crucial. That is the 777. That is, of course, Martin Jedzinski. That is a race for second place in Pro-Am. Third place in Pro-Am. Oh, yes, of course, we've got Steve Jans and Valentin Pierberg. So this is a big race on eight. Just lost a little bit of time for no clear reason there. But Hash in the car, of course, the lead Academy driver of the Fontana Academy. His teammate also is driving coach. Hash only been driving since last year. I say driving, racing since last year. So he's on his licence for a little longer than that. But he's coming on leaps and bounds since the start of the GT Open campaign last year.
It was an awkward line from, just wanted to say, from Marcin Jedlinski coming through Rivage. That really kind of painted that picture. It hasn't really costed him that much time, but this is a fairly equal ground fight now, because Hash obviously representing alongside Alex Fontana in the Porsche. Car Collection actually taking their first win in the International GT Open last year at Barcelona. It wasn't with Hash, though, and Alex Fontana. Despite them coming close back at Portimao in their own right en route to taking Pro-Am victory, they also put in a grand account in the overall results as well when they featured back in Portimao. And I'm sure there'll be more to come from this pairing too. And if we take a look at the championship numbers, they did manage to pull together a splendid display as they now make their way down through towards the bus stop chicane. Car Collection Porsche actually incidentally finishing not only, well, they took pole and they also finished P8 taking 4 points. Oh my goodness, look at that. And I think that's Stanislav Jedlinski, who's now behind the wheel of the Olymp Racing Ferrari. Just a bit of a harem-scarum moment for a few cars there, making their way up through Eau Rouge in Radion. We're back though with the Pro-Am third battle. Tom Empson has gotten past Anton Dokkan now for 8th place. So that might have been what that skirmish was all about, coming up over the crest. Steve Jans was also part of that, I think, briefly, but also has an advantage of 3.6 over Empson in terms of the overall classification. But yes, for Alex Fontana and Hash, of course, in the car now at the moment for the Porsche that we're seeing right now, who's now being moved up upon by Marcin Jedlinski, coming up through towards Lecom. Can't quite find the move just yet, but they would finish 8th place in the overall classification in race 2. A mammoth performance, and like I said, Hash improving all the time, and they ranked out Pro-Am winners in race 2 as well.
If things stayed as they are right now in the Pro-Am competition, which might not look the case, it would mean it'd be tied at the top of the Pro-Am classification, because Sampson and Ramos would then be, Pro-Am. Pierberg and Baumann would be tied on points with Hash and Fontana if things stay like they are.
Yeah, here's the replay from the race start, from the very start. We'll take you through the highlights from from that point leading up from the start to now. And it was Greystone who had the initial advantage, and they managed to build a gap of around 15 seconds. Eventually, though, as we made our way through the race, Laventia Ravesh would move his way through past Simon Riker in pursuit of P2, and therefore then look to hunt down the Greystone McLaren. Later on, it would be the turn of Robert Visoyu at the inside, but ran a little bit deep, allowing Simon Riker with another chance. This opened up the door for Zach Meakin to then try and move his way back as well through this. But this is where things came a little unstuck for Greystone GT McLaren. I say a little unstuck, majorly unstuck. They went from the lead to the very back after a fault during the driver change period. We then witnessed as well the 77 belonging to Alfredo Hernandez coming close side by side as well as they made their way through. Stefan Trubadini also marking his debut for the team here in this championship, as then Christopher Haase then managed to dodge and weave his way past some cars as well. In came then Laventia Ravesh back again inside the car to take the next stint after a grand display once more, this time from the now debuting for Motorpark Max Gertz ahead of the International GT Open this season. Now we have since witnessed a moment between Robert Visoyu and of course Anthony Bartone that has led to Robert Visoyu, who we're currently seeing on screen now, take the chicane, coming through with a 10-second time penalty, which would or could yet see him forfeit P3 overall to Zach Meakin and Optimum Motorsport later on. So a very, very punishing moment for them. There is Robert Visoyu now on our screen now as he looks to come around Corbeil Paul Frere. He is currently 1.8 in behind. Or should I say, currently at the moment, there's quite a gap in between here and the car in front. Robert Visoyu, 1.3 behind Simon Riker. Has been closing, actually. Look at that last lap, lap 48, 3.7. Obviously, traffic, again, probably playing, being the harbinger in all of this. But I have to say, Robert Visoyu has really been knuckling down, very much aware of that 10-second time penalty, and he must be, because he's built that gap to Zach Meakin to now 2.7 seconds.
So Visoyu is now only 1.3, hang on a second, 1.2 behind Simon Riker. Where's that come from?
That is unbelievable.
That was a 10-second gap.
Well, I mean, bear in mind, he did gain 3 points. I would imagine that Simon Riker likely succumbed to traffic, I would say, in certain areas, as we now rejoin the P3 Pro-Am battle. Of course, this is between Marcin Jedlinski and, of course, Hash. Currently sat in overall 13th, and they've got Libor Milota now for company. And yes, Stanley, very, very aggressive run into the gravel trap there for Libor Milota. So quite fascinating here, because we've got two Audi R8 LMSs and some words being exchanged here between Karol Bash and Marcin Jedlinski. Of course, coaching Marcin through. These two have been together now since 2022 in the championship, former Pro-Am champions together as well, and have been inside the top three in terms of the Pro-Am championship on various occasions. They are an absolute giant in that class, and a fabulous team as well, a friendly bunch. Of course, Karol Bash has also got a very close network with plenty of junior drivers that are looking to come through the realms of single-seaters, so vastly experienced. And Marcin Jedlinski benefiting off the back of this too, as they now head down through towards turn one to begin yet another lap. And in behind, there's the ISR Audi belonging to Libor Milota. Now moving through. They've got to try and dodge and weave. The two Olymp cars now meeting together as Stanislav Jedlinski allows Marcin Jedlinski, of course, blood relations, father and son, heading uphill. Marcin now over the crest, coming out of Eau Rouge and Radion, and heading uphill now through towards Les Combes. And now the ISR Audi of Milota might yet try his luck this time on fellow Audi R8 counterpart Marcin Jedlinski. And towards Les Combes, late on the break, still no avenue for an overtake just yet. But bear in mind, Milota in this Pro-Am fight. So there's three cars now fighting over P3 in class.
This is fantastic, isn't it? We've got 7.5 minutes until driver changeover. Car number 92 was just at its last warning. That's Eduardo Bacci down in 26th place, so at 11th place in Pro-Am. But this, Hash, Jedlinski and Milota, and with a driver changeover coming up, again, tactics come into full play. But Hash, probably the least experienced of the three, leading the trio, are not looking like giving way anyway soon whatsoever. As we've said already, come on so far as a race driver in the last, 18 months or so. Unrecognisable from the start of last season. And here, he leads this trio, third place in class, shortly handing over once again to the rapidly quick Alex Fontana.
Fontana, like I said, was the man who put it on pole position as well in the car collection Porsche that was in Pro-Am class. They took overall pole ahead of the second race at Portimao. As we now watch as Robert Visoyu once again puts in delta against Simon Riker, and now he's well within a second, 6/10 away now as he looks to try and gain. Now this is Robert Visoyu trying to mitigate the 10-second penalty that was issued to him after the contact with, oh no.
Oh, blimey.
Now this is not a driver change period, folks at home. James Kell back into the pits with the Greystone GT McLaren 720S GT3, the same McLaren that was leading the race in the opening stint. But when the first driver change period came up, they spent a great deal of time looking into the car, into the engine bay. Some clear issues there for Greystone to deal with that has essentially cost them the race win in the SPA-500 here today.
And potentially 30 points in the championship as well. If there's one race you do not want to have a DNF in, it is this one. Double points at Spa.
Yeah.
But there you go. That is motor racing, as we often say.
I mean, granted, you do we do have drop scores here in this championship when you come to the last round of the championship at the last race, obviously to decide who's going to be champion. But a GT Open 500 race is not a race where you want to be dropping scores. It is such a key moment in the season. Of course, we still have one more coming up at Monza, but this is not the way you want to start. As now down the inside comes Robert Viso-Yu, and what a stellar move that is from Robert Viso-Yu for Motor Park. Mercedes here, exiting out of turn 19, ahead now of Simon Riker and Easter Tauri. Motor Park firing back after the 10-second time penalty was issued. This is a defiant Robert Viso-Yu at a very, very key moment. The next driver change window comes up in just under 5 minutes, 4 minutes and 52 to be exact, but Viso-Yu sending a message in pursuit of potentially a Motor Park 1-2 here in the GT Open at the Spa 500.
That is a brave dive and got the job done. He will know very well about that 10-second. He'd have to give it absolutely everything. Of course, there'll be a little bit of guilt there. He's passing on a 10-second penalty to his teammate and his team and mechanics and owners, so he's trying to rectify that fact. This is exactly where that 10-second penalty came in, but this time he's ahead. Here we go. He dived to the inside. It was too late for Simon Riker to react to it. Got the job done at the bus stop chicane, makes his way towards the line, down towards La Source, and now he leads by close to 1 second. And he's not going to catch Levente Ravesh. He is 20 seconds or more up the road.
I don't think Motor Park are worried about that, to be honest.
Not at all, not at all.
Because
but look at the traffic in front. There's going to be 4 cars minimum in front of them over the next few turns.
Well, the benefit that Motor Park has is now that they've got 2 cars essentially in the front 2 positions, whilst obviously Viso-Yu has got that 10-second time penalty that Nicholas Cruton will inherit when he takes over during the next driver change period. Motor Park can manage this race now. They could essentially try and thwart the other teams, obviously make life difficult for them a little bit. That's exactly what we've seen in team racing in the past. Obviously, as long as they don't breach the rules, etc., of course they wouldn't. But remember, Easter Lent have still got an ace in the hole, and that is, of course, Christopher Haase, who will be stepping up when the driver change period window period does open up in just over 3 minutes and 15's time. Simon Riker, though, doing a wonderful job here. They're occupying the top 3 placings. Once again, they're in the podium equation in the Spa 500 for a second year, and now looking to go a little bit further this time around. And I must say, Ravesh doing a wonderful job as well at the very head of the order. The gap now between the 2 Motor Park cars, 32.9 seconds.
Mammoth.
An absolutely extraordinary run with Ravesh maturing into that really, well, displaying all the qualities of a great driver, looking as well, I'm sure, for a Mercedes factory position in the future as the Corvette has a little bit of a look at the inside as well. And Mark Sampson, that is, of course, the car that belongs to the Joe Hall Motorsport team. Not necessarily a move for position here in this case, but the combination of Prince Jeffrey Ibrahim and Prince Abu Bakr Ibrahim as well, returning to the grid, not with a Honda NSX this time. This time we see the return of Corvette, Chevrolet Corvette here to this championship for the first time since 2013. And just giving us a little bit of a visual show as he dodged past Mark Sampson, who still holds the AM class lead now. And now moving past Mark Sampson is Robert Viso-Yu, who now sticks a car in between him, and also further back we've got Laurent Demeus, Jamie Stanley combination, and further back Jamie Stanley in the AF Corsa Ferrari. As things stand, as Mark Sampson and Stanley come together. Now it looks like Stanley moves out the way of Easter Lent Audi's Simon Riker, who's obviously on a different race to this bunch. He can't afford to stay behind because he needs to try and gain or maintain at least some time deficit, because he doesn't want to make Christopher Haase's time in the car for the last stint of the race, the key last stint of the race, difficult. He needs to try and open up that clean air.
For Viso-Yu, this is just getting better and better. He's got through the traffic. Simon Riker is stuck in it right now.
Here's Zach Meakin.
He needs to build time. Zach Meakin's closing on the back of Simon Riker, so they can battle out in traffic. Viso-Yu, he's not going to build up 10 seconds because the driver changeover opens in 75 seconds time. That's coming very, very shortly. But this is all nibbling away at that 10-second penalty.
The thing is, for Viso-Yu, I would imagine he's probably resolute to the fact that it's likely that Easter Lent are going to take the position back off him. That goes without saying, because of course it's not enough that they have it's not enough that the 10-second time penalty is going to do the damage, as we hear that team manager for car 65 now needs to be reported to race control, or is being reported to race control. That's Heiko Neumann in the Mercedes-AMG GT3. As now, this time, we see a battle between the two pro outfits, Zach Meekin and Simon Riker, coming close to, very nearly side by side in towards bus stop at turn 18. As they now hustle down the long straight, they've got Mark Sampson there. You can just see there the flashing lights from Simon Riker, just asking for that clear air, needs to get past the blue flags. Of course, Mark Sampson not in this race. He is in the AM fight and is leading the AM fight at the moment, so he doesn't really want to be in this position where he is fighting it out with other cars that aren't even in his class, as we now ride on board with Jamie Stanley. And Stanley had that same ideology as well. He let the Stellantis Audi through straight away. Obviously understands that he's not part of this scrap, as now we see the Stellantis Audi breeze on through. No question though, the McLaren, it needs to do the same. Zach Meekin in his own fight. Obviously, remember, he is in contest with the Audi as well of Simon Riker. So, big opportunity here for Optimum to take a podium here as well, with VCU, despite moving his way up the field and holding on to second, may have put himself a little bit higher up there now than Simon Riker. But when that driver change window comes around, as it will do very soon, as we see the number 20 come in. Now that's a driver change. It's literally just opened. What timing? As Dominic Baumann hops out, Valentin Pierberg will hop out, I should say. Dominic Baumann setting foot into the car. There is Tom Leben and Tom Empson serving a standard stop as well. So this is where everything unfolds now, Ewan.
Absolutely, yeah, we've got 13 minutes of driver changeover, and again we have the situation, do you leave it to the very end if you're in traffic, get your car in the pits? So we might see either Simon Riker or Zach Meekin come in at the very first opportunity now.
Yeah, this is Hash coming in, Alex Fontana, who has been absolutely rapid in his stints as well. Remember, granting the car collection team overall pole position back in race 2 at Portimao in the opening round of the championship. Well, now you'll be looking to bring this car collection Porsche home in pursuit of higher Pro-Am honours. We've also got Steve Jans, who is out on track. He's going to look to go as far, I would imagine, as he can possible. Let's have a look at this right now. Now, this is the Amir Naran car, who's, oh my goodness me, that is a huge impact. We didn't actually see that on the live broadcast, but coming toe-to-toe with the 19 of the Oregon, that Philip Ugran will be taking over now very shortly. Here's our race leader, Max Gertz, now hopping in for the final stint after a brilliant drive from Laventia Ravesh. His day is done, and they're now going to be serving what they need to serve during the pit stop. They're just going to look to try and manage their time, but they're coming in with a 30-second advantage into the pits as well, as in comes as well Simon Riker. No surprise, Christopher Haase taking the stint immediately for the remaining parts of the race, and they're in a major fight at the moment with Mikey Porter and Zach Meekin, who are currently sat fourth at the moment, and also big question marks over what's going to happen with Nicholas Cruton after Robert Visoyu received the penalty after the collision with Schiller and Bartone's car at the top of Lake Com. Now, it's important to note that Bartone and Schiller aren't out of this, because they are also going to be swapping in the very fast Fabian Schiller for the rest of the race, and all eyes on Tommaso Mosca. A very thrilling finish to this top 6 affair here in the GT Open Spa-500.
And the top 6 have all come into the pits at their very first opportunity, so we'll know really quickly when they come back where we're sitting. Of course,
as you can see, the 100-second being served as well for Mark Sampson and Miguel Ramos. While that won't be a major imposition just due to what they've done already in the race, they need a clean stop here now, Ewan.
They all do. Yeah, I mean, again, how important is that penalty going to be, the 10 seconds come the end of the race? Is the another team, Oregon, the number 19.
This is the one that was involved in that incident as Robin Rogalski made his way out through towards Lake Com. Slightly hobbling, Philip Ugran now making his way towards the car. It looked like there was a... Well, we saw the contacts coming up through towards Lake Com now. Is there any concern? It doesn't look like the team is concerned about the car. They're just keen to get it straight back out there. Ugran now taking it for the remaining stint. Lucas Dunner also swapping in for Heiko Neumann. Outlaps now for all those pro cars that were in the top 6. Gertz out first, Cruton out in second place as it stands. Haase down in overall, we think, net P3 as it stands, with Mikey Porter also on an outlap. Schiller is out, so's Mosca. There is our net race leader, Max Gertz. A very good stop, no concerns. None of the hoodoo that faced Diego Menchaca and Marcos Seibert in the past as well here in the Spa 500. They can now carry onwards in pursuit of a Spa 500 victory, and also equally what would be also sensational on top of that is the fact that obviously they've been chasing a big win for a Mercedes outfit, and it'll be the first time that we see a manufacturer win for a second time in the Spa 500 should Motorpark bring it home. It'll be their first win as a team in this particular race.
And I'm just waiting to see what the official difference is in time. We know they went in with a plus 30-second advantage. And this is, of course,
second
Christian
place
Haase.
Net P2 battle, this is as well.
And Cruton. So chairs being chucked out. Next driver gets back in. So these are all very early pit stops. Almost the entire, not the entire field yet, but a lot of the top teams have all come in very, very quickly.
Now Cruton, who, remember, he inherits that 10-second time penalty that will be submitted at the end of the race. So as it stands, regardless of whether Haase makes the overtake or not, he will move up into second net P2, I mean. Of course, we've still got other cars that are still yet to box. Haase taking a look at the inside as well, very keen to try and move his car forward, higher up the front. There is, of course, the combination of Aaron Walker, Steve Jans. Steve Jans, who has done a mighty job in his own right. Aaron Walker, really, really fast as well. We'll be looking to bring home the Pro-Am Bacon. Up the inside comes Haase and dodges up the inside past Nicholas Cruton. That is a net P2 move here in this Spa 500 race, and has got a little bit of traffic in front of him, immediately gets on the light signals. Haase has got one thing on his mind, and he wants to give himself the best chance possible of potentially contesting for this overall win here. It's not out of the question, but Geerts is going to be a very hard driver to catch.
It would be a absolutely massive run like you've never seen before, but he's got the first job done, and that is to move into second place overall. Again, those flashing lights in the pits with the number 77. That's the BDR Group Golden Mercedes of Hernandez and Tribadini, and they are currently sitting in where are they? The 77 down the pack near the end. Yeah, 27th position right now, but third in AM class, so everything matters. Miguel Ramos, we've not mentioned him for a little while, still leading. Here's the replay of that overtake. Haase right down the inside. You must say, Cruton went very wide into La Source there, almost gave him the overtake, handed it to him on a plate.
It almost was on a silver plate, wasn't it? Ralph Aaron stepping in for Marcelo Ramirez, who completes his stint as well. So that's for the Mercedes AMG GT3, and they're going to come in and serve their remaining pit stop time as well. Aaron taking helm in the car, of course, brother of Paul Aaron, who races as a reserve for the Alpine Formula One team. As into the pits comes Luca Ludwig and Anton Dokan as well. Andrea Montemini stepping in to Ludwig's stead, with Artem Petrov now also coming in for Anton Dokan now as well. So Oregon looking for a positive finish to their race here this time around, as we watch as Fabian Schiller looks to pursue after Mikey Porter over P6 here in our overall classification. Looks like the Optimum Motorsport McLaren might find finishing on the podium a little bit of a challenge here this time around, as now we watch as Artem Petrov looks to hop into the car very much up on the jacks still, and is brought straight back down again as the team get to work on the final measures before they can then rejoin the circuit. All this, though, allowing, as Montemini and Petrov await to go back out again, Max Geerts to take the lead on track as a whole here in the overall race. With Christopher Haase looking to gain as well. And I do want to let you all know that there is a gap of around 21 seconds between Haase and Geerts at this state. But we'll see whether that does come down. There is Andrea Montemini, having taken over from Luca Ludwig as part of the overall classification. Haase now confirmed second place out on circuit. Cruton following him through as well after being overtaken by Haase not too long ago at the bus stop. Mikey Porter and Schiller, who we're now seeing on screen, currently 4th and 5th in tandem. We've got a 10-second time penalty for causing a collision to car 108, and that is Amir Naran, who we saw earlier on, obviously now being given a punishment for the actions where the contact was made. After causing a collision, 10 seconds will be added to Amir Naran's race time. They're currently well down in terms of the Pro-Am classification, 21st overall. Certainly won't be in that top Pro-Am fight, that's for sure, and that 10-second time penalty is almost insult to injury. It does open up the opportunity for Felipe Fernandez Laser to now move ahead of them for Rinaldi Racing in their first weekend here in the International GT Open here at Spa in 2025. But as we now watch, it's Porter and Schiller battling over fourth at the moment, out on track, both of which also holding podium ambitions, and there's still a chance they can muster that. Porter sat in fourth, currently sat 6.1 away from Nicholas Cruton, so as it stands, Porter will be on the podium.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, just going to point out the lead, which was beyond 30 seconds in the lead up to the changeover, is down to 20, and now a lot of that would have happened during the changeover.
Haas has just registered a purple middle as well.
Absolutely. So Christopher Haase has got 40 minutes to pick up 20 seconds. So when you put it like that, it's not completely outside the realms of possibility, is it?
It's certainly not out of it, and we've already seen how on the money Haase has been in the past, and they would love a victory at the Spa 500 when they've come so close to it in the past as well. As we now see as Amir Naran comes into the pits, this was the car that was handed a 10-second time penalty just now as well. Tom Jackson will now take the wheel for the remainder of the race. Driver change period comes to an end in 3.5 minutes time. There is the McLaren 720S and Mikey Porter with Fabian Schiller giving chase. Heading uphill. Has Schiller got anything left to offer to try and challenge Mikey Porter this time around? Of course, this Mercedes that Schiller is driving was involved in that incident earlier on with Robert Visoyu. Of course, Bartone was in the driving seat for that one. It was really unfortunate because it did cost them a great deal of time coming out of Les Combes, and now sees them squaring off with Mikey Porter in a bid to try and at least get something out of this race, at least some scratching of a podium. And you get the feeling this is the immediate P3 battle right here out on track, because Mikey Porter's brought the gap down to 5.8. And in comes Jamie Stanley. Lauren DeMeus will now hop into the car.
Now, on the last lap alone, Christopher Haase was 0.9 of a second quicker over one lap. Now, there are not 20 laps remaining. There might be 17-ish laps remaining, which means just on that very quick maths, within the last couple of laps or so, this could be getting incredibly close. Still 19.9 seconds between the top two, but things getting a little bit tighter. Aaron Walker alongside Steve Jans, they lead the Pro-Am competition by around about 22 seconds now, so that is looking very comfortable indeed for a Pro-Am competition win, and likewise for Miguel Ramos, now in the 1.88, likewise in that class. Things, well, we are 37 minutes away from this being concluded, but things looking good for those two teams.
Yeah, definitely are. Over the last lap, Haase was faster than Gertz. Both of the top drivers lapping in 2:15 territory. That is the optimal time. We have seen Carol Bash also lapping in 2:15 territory as well. The gap between them, 20 seconds as of crossing the line the last time. And also, Nicholas Cruton, 3.6 behind Haase as it stands, but Haase, of course, making a move on Cruton for that on-track P2. Porter, if anything, now becomes the danger for Nicholas Cruton. As it stands, it will be Porter, P3, after the 10-second time penalty was issued to both Robert Visoyu and Nicholas Cruton. So it's damage limitation now for the motorpark car, the second motorpark car inside the top three. It's Gertz looking to bring home a first motorpark win here at Spa in the International GT Open. And what a day to do it here during the 500 weekend, where it looks like Levente Ravesh could yet rubber stamp his position as championship leader before we head to our next round, which takes us to Hockenheimring.
Yep.
And we'll move back to the usual two-race system. Dominic Baumann moving up to 10th place now on track after overtaking Andrea Montemini. He's now second in Pro-Am class, but quite a ways behind Aaron Walker, who is well and truly solidified higher up. He is 6.7 seconds ahead of Artem Petrov, and Baumann is 17.2 behind Petrov as well.
Baumann is lapping 1.5 seconds quicker than Walker at the moment. So again, we could see the Pro and the Pro-Am competition come down to the last few minutes if things continue in this form. That is Schiller flashing his lights against Porter, so they are in, virtual third place. This is the last step on the podium, because at the minute with Cruton, with his 10-second penalty, that would actually drop them down to 6th place here in VSOU. The driving change has finished, but they would all been in plenty of time.
Ralph Aarons just ushered in a purple middle sector as well. Driver change window is finished. Just wanted to say as well, Max Gertz, actually a personal best for the Gertz-Leventi-Ravesh combination, 2:15.613 over the last lap, so not enough to just be faster than Christopher Haase. They've just added yet more delta onto their best lap time, so to protect
the lead's growing.
Yeah, well, yeah, this is it. I mean, this is off the back of that last lap that Gertz put together. This is, a grand display for a motor park, it has to be said, as we now watch the battle unfold still between Porter and Schiller at the moment. This is all over P4 on track right now, but that could easily very much lead to P3 at the end of the race when the penalties come home to roost. Further back, Tommaso Mosca also coming into this as well, 1.8. We just saw him in the background coming out of La Source. So it's not over yet for the AF Corsa team. They've still got Tommaso Mosca, who has taken over here in this stint after Carl Bennett took the last stint last time around. So very much numerous open doors in terms of the P3 battle.
At the minute, anyone in the top 6 could take a spot on the podium. I mean, it could still be, of course, Cruton and VSOU. They've just got to build up a gap of, what is it now, 5 seconds.
They need another 5 seconds.
Again, that is one opportunity, one possibility, the way this race can finish.
They would need a lot of fortune, though, to do that. So obviously with Porter and Schiller actually over the last lap lapping in a 2:16.3. There's Simon Riker watching on, hoping and willing on Christopher Haase, who's 20.3 in behind. Just seems that every effort that Haase makes is undone by Max Gertz. Again, we're talking about two phenomenal talents behind the wheel. Gertz, who packs a punch, and as a Mercedes factory driver, of course, Christopher Haase, not long ago, a Audi factory driver in his own right. That contract has since come to an end, but still harbours very strong relationships with the Audi organisation, no question, and has been a storied member of this Easterland team, and the legacy is so strong with this lineup as well, with Haase and Riker providing many phenomenal moments here in the International GT Open. As now we see the two Audi R8 LMSs. Speaking of Audi now, as they go wheel to wheel, this is Carol Bash looking to move past the 75 of Philip Salicada. That is over Pro-Am third, and Bash has taken Pro-Am third as well. Great effort from the pole for the Polish team as they look to close up to the back of Dominic Baumann, but there's a mountain to climb before they can even consider that, because they currently sat 1.8 behind Philip Ugran, who's 11.5 seconds off Fontamini, who in turn is 3.6 off Dominic Baumann.
Yeah, so at the minute there are 3 big gaps between leaders and second places, but nothing is insurmountable. There's so many great cars, drivers behind the wheels. Now, fastest lap of, well, that was ages ago, wasn't it? The 2:15.264 of Dean McDonald. That is not going to be beaten, I don't think. Nobody's come within 0.4 of that in the last sort of 20 minutes or so. So that might be... Oh, they will get a bonus point because they won't finish, will they?
Maybe so. Well, we'll wait and see what occurs come the end of the race. Bash now, recorded 13th now on our classification, 1.9 behind Philip Ugran. Gertz now completing 60 laps of racing thus far, 20.6 now. It's grown again ahead of Haase. And over the last lap again, just over 3/10 quicker was Max Gertz. 20.6 now, as I said. Cruton 5.4 back from Haase. We've fed a Cruton, he's been lapping pretty strong as well. 2:16s though, it's not quite the realm of the 2:15. Nearly 8/10 difference between Haase, in favour of Haase ahead of Cruton at the moment. And Porter is starting to nip at the heels now of Cruton because he put in a personal best in the last lap as well. There is Aaron Walker, current Pro-Am leader, ahead of Artem Petrov, who isn't in Pro-Am. Of course, he's in the overall fight. And Dominic Baumann, if we look at the comparison between Walker and Baumann right now, of course, 2:19 over the last lap from Aaron Walker, but remember, of course, it's all about traffic management as well as anything else. Last lap for Baumann was a 2:16.6, and we know how good Baumann is. I hark back to the sensational defence from both Mikel Pitamba and Dominic Baumann back at Barcelona in 2023, where they went on to take a phenomenal victory that I would record as probably one of the greatest moments in international GT Open history. And what a pleasure it was too. The defence that Pitamba himself put together was sensational. Obviously, we wish him well, and we obviously hope to see him back in the near future. Obviously, a wonderful talent as a young driver that is South African, but Baumann doing him credit at the moment, currently sat in 10th place right now, and there's the 92, and that is further back. I think Jabarian was behind the wheel of that car. Yes, he is. 27th and last in Pro-Am at the moment. Just look at the gravel, currently sat at the top of Melmedi at the moment. As we now watch as the 65 belonging to Heiko Neumann makes its way around the circuit. But at the moment, it's Gertz with all the cards pointing in his favour at the moment. Last lap, though, Haase did get the advantage on him. It was 2 tenths or 1.5 tenths between them at the very top of the shop. So it's now brought it down to 20.5, but Haase needs to dig deeper if he wants to challenge for this race win. We still have, though, just under half an hour now to go.
Yeah, track limits for Alex Fontana as he tries to get back towards the top 3 in the Pro-Am competition, currently sitting in 5th behind Salakada, Bash, Baumann, and of course Walker, who's seen a few glimpses of. There is our leader, Max Götz, in the Mercedes Team Motor Park, again going for their first win at Spa. Still leading. There's been no change in the last 10 minutes, no change whatsoever. It's constantly been just above 20 seconds. Max Götz absolutely flying around these 7 kilometers, 19 turns of the SPA-FRANCORCHAMPS circuit. It would be a huge, huge win for the team, and it's all going in the right direction right now. Definitely is.
So representing a motorsport team that I'm sure will love to get this result in the bag, and I'm sure Timo Rumpfkarl is watching on pensively as well. It's been a long time coming. They've come close, as I said before. They've had strong lineups in the past, and so I look back and look at the likes of Marcos Seibert, who's competed for Motor Park here in this very series in the past. Also a European Le Mans Series champion alongside Alejandro Garcia, who equally represented Motor Park in the Euro Formula Open back in 2022, the same year. Oliver Goethe would go on to win that title. And I want to talk about the Goethe family as well. They've got GT3 heritage with Benji Goethe taking part in major top GT3 championships. So we now watch them fly uphill. Once again, at this time, there's Gertz just mammothing his way through now, just getting through some of the back markers that lie in wait. That is, of course, an AF Corset machine in Pro-Am class, the 92 of Masoud Jabarian. And now the number 11 of Gertz now started to dwarf that advantage between Haase again. It's 20.9. Remember, it was 24.5 briefly before, after Haase managed to find another couple of tenths, 10.5. The last time around, it was a 2:15.993 for Gertz, and for Haase, it was a 2:16.269. So for the first time, a rare moment where Haase has found himself in the 2:16s as opposed to the 2:15s. Again, that can be down to traffic, of course. But as we now watch as the East Talentari drifts downwards through Rivage, looking for yet more success for the East Talent, reigning champions, of course, with Simon Riker. Mikey Porter still very much in pursuit of Nicholas Cruton. That gap has come down again as well, and it continues to do so. Cruton was actually lapping in the 2:17s in the last lap. It was a 2:16.534. Now, whilst it doesn't necessarily constitute to being a second faster or anything like that, there's still plenty of time left. 27 minutes plus the 1 lap extra as well. Well, I mean, we've got to factor in that, there's only 3.8 between them in terms of the P3 battle overall. Obviously, aside from that, Cruton has got to forego that 10 seconds due to the penalty he picked up after Visoyu made contact with Bartone at the top of Les Combes. So regardless, Porter is on hand here to taking a P3 should it remain like this, but Schiller's going to make that job very hard. It's only 3.8, though, between Porter and Cruton, and over the last lap, with Porter lapping at 6 tenths a lap faster. I mean, it could be the case that we see those two come to blows in maybe 5 to 6 laps' time.
And let's not forget the Italian Tommaso Mosca as well in the car number 51. That's the AF course. And the Ferrari, 2.7 seconds back only. That is still a fight for potentially third step of the podium. Of course, 10 seconds bloody to Cruton is 2 point. Yeah, it could have dropped down to 6th or so. So long old way to. We've said this so many times, and it is. There's so much that can happen in a 26-minute race if you start this from scratch.
Yeah, it's another gain this time.
Plenty to play for.
It's another gain from Mikey Porter there. 2:16.845, and it was a 2:17.463 for Nicholas Cruton. So that now shifts the baton yet again in the favour of Mikey Porter by another 0.6 of a second. So it's 0.6 a lap. They're closing, like I said, 4 to 5 laps. They'll be in striking distance, and this is the 77 of Stefan Trubadini, who's in the car in place of Hernandez. Obviously, we've gone past the driver change window, so that must be an inspection for something maybe a little bit different. Warning for car 26 for track limits this time around. The 26 being Marcus Pavrud down in 16th place, currently sat in Pro-Am 6 at the moment. As now we watch as Nicholas Cruton dives through Rivage. Of course, now the gap reducing ever more so. Just look at Mikey Porter getting ever closer. It's now down to 3 seconds now already, and Schiller being dragged into this fight. We're going to see a mega 3 to 4 car scrap over P3 on track. Of course, what happens post-race will be decided as a result of the stewards' room.
Yeah, don't go anywhere just yet. If you've got 25 minutes, stick around with us. And 6th place in Pro is obviously Mosca. Then you've got Tom Leben, but that is 30 seconds further down the track. So this is, right now, getting towards the race. It is only going to be between 6 cars, and quite frankly, 5 of them for 2nd and 3rd too. So we'll keep our eyes peeled. In the Pro-Am competition, Aaron Walker is still leading by 18 seconds over Dominic Baumann in 2nd position in the car number 20, the SPS Automotive Performance. And Carol Bash is looking pretty good. Well, 3.4 seconds ahead. And 1 car in between him of Philippe Salacada in the 75. That is the team ISR. He's been racing with Libor Milota.
Coming out of bus stop now at turn 19. And now down towards turn 1. There is Schiller. Still very, very close behind Mikey Porter. I think he's just happy to be towed along, I think, at the moment, just waiting for his chance to strike. And in the process, he's being brought closer and closer to the back of Nicholas Cruton. It's now only 2 seconds now. The last lap was a 2:16.678, and he was 1.3 seconds faster over the last lap. So that former gain of 0.6 now over doubles immediately over the course of the last lap. And Nicholas Cruton is going to have company very, very shortly, it would seem, with the McLaren 720S now starting to drift ever more to the rear spoiler of the Mercedes-AMG GT3 further back. Tommaso Mosca just drifting out again slightly, 2.5 now between the AF Corsa Ferrari and Fabian Schiller, who still remains 7/10 behind Mikey Porter as they now dive down in towards Rivage once again. Gertz has lost a little bit of time to Haase, though. Do you remember that gap was beyond 20 seconds?
Yep.
It's now 19.5. So, and Haase, I just want to say, has just put in a personal best in the first sector, so he's already alone 0.4 quicker coming out of the first sector in itself. And Gertz only did a 2:16.3 over the last lap. Haase did a 2:15.9. So still potential questions to be made, but bear in mind, 19.5 seconds behind, given the fact that we are in a 22.2 minute race. I mean, you're talking nearly a second a lap he's going to need to close by, and there's Levente Ravesh watching on, hoping and praying that Gertz can deliver the goods ahead of the end of this Spa 500 race.
Bang on 20 seconds again now. That has just been floating around. Can't see that changing whatsoever now. But Haase has pulled out 11.4 seconds on Cruton. And then there's 1.3 to Porter, 0.4 to Schiller, 2.7 to Mosca. This is going all the way towards the finish line. No changes in Pro, and we'll keep our eyes solely focused on the Pro competition. That is where we're going to see potentially the biggest changes in this final 21 minutes plus 1 lap.
Better line taken there from Schiller as opposed to Mikey Porter's run. I think just coming through a little bit tight into the final corner at turn 19. Not that it'll worry him too much, because now he's only 1.1 off the back of Nicholas Cruton, so this is where business will start to pick up here in the battle over on-track P3, because it's not enough to say that it's just Nicholas Cruton who's going to lose out here, but Fabian Schiller is also a major player in this fight. Mosca being only 2.7 seconds behind, whilst of course he has lost yet again more time, another 2/10 added to the deficit between the AF Corsa Ferrari and Schiller's Mercedes. He is still very much a contender in terms of what could yet happen with this podium. A lot happens in racing, and generally it does, as they now fly uphill through towards Les Combes again. Schiller glued to the back of Mikey Porter's McLaren 720S. It's a double Mercedes affair as it stands in terms of what's going on track in the top three, but we could yet have 3 different manufacturers representing inside the top 3 when the checkered flag comes out in just over 20 minutes and a half time. Of course, not forgetting we do have another lap to bring you at the end of the timer after it ticks to 0. But around the left-hander at Jackie X this time around, Mikey Porter obviously very wary that whilst obviously he will be in P3, I'm sure, come the end of the race, it's not enough in terms of that. His big concern is Fabian Schiller, who can be cold as ice out there on track. We have seen dazzling performances from him in the past. As I said, a 5 times race winner in the International GT Open, and a mistake there made by Mikey Porter. This is exactly what I mean, and he gets pushed wide onto the gravel. And indeed, Fabian Schiller, whilst moving ahead of Mikey Porter into that 4th place. What will the stewards make of it? Will it be a racing incident? There was definitely an error on parts of Mikey Porter coming through into the Lafanier chicane. It was all brought about as they try to make their way through the lap traffic. The 92 of Masoud Jabarian once again featuring as they try to make their way through the Lafanier chicane. We'll have a look at a replay very shortly, I'm sure, as to what occurred at that moment. But bewildering scenes here, but Schiller now provided an opportunity. Let's see this again. There's Jabarian. Obviously, it looked like a very aggressive line taken around the outside here from Schiller, who managed to dance around the outside, and this is where they came together, just going off wide indeed, getting pushed wide.
I think that's okay.
I think it's I've got a feeling it could extend to a racing incident, to be honest, but we'll wait and see what's going to happen with that as far as race control is concerned. A warning has been dished out for car 19. That is the car of Philip Ugran from Oregon Team Lamborghini, and a warning has also gone out to the 99 car belonging to Prince Abu Bakr Ibrahim as well, as we now watch as the 2 Mercedes dance uphill. There is Mikey Porter in the background, probably feeling a little bit besmirched over what has occurred over the course of the last lap, but now Schiller is going to look to turn on the style here on the back of Nicholas Cruton. P3 on the table. Like I said, it's not enough to win it or gain it through a penalty. As far as Schiller's concerned, there are greater feats to be achieved here, and also at the same time, defence against Mikey Porter is necessary.
So Schiller in a very, very strong, effective 3rd place right now. Again, we can't forget Cruton, the 10-second penalty coming up shortly in about 18 minutes' time. So he doesn't really need to pass at Cruton, because I don't think he's going to catch Christopher Haas. That's too far up the road. However, he will want to get past it just to put a bit more time between him and Porter in the 4, of course. Now, Porter is going to be, the red mist will be descending right now in that cockpit, so he has got his eyes firmly set on Fabian Schiller. He might have seen the incident differently, of course, and maybe felt he was pushed to one side and onto the gravel. The way we saw it, I think, as you said, racing incident, kind of looked okay. Wasn't the best line into the corner anyway. Schiller took advantage of the gap and went straight through it.
I can confirm that race control are looking into the incident. Well, they've noted the incident here between cars 9 and 4. That's Mikey Porter and Fabian Schiller. So no word yet, indeed, as to what's occurred. It's noted. We will, of course, let you know if there's any changes in terms of the decision made on that. But warning flag as well has been issued to car number 82. And that is belonging to Ralph Aaron, who's been lapping relatively quickly in his own right, also in the very early ones, 216s. And doing an exceptional job trying to close to the back of Lucas Dunner at the moment. He's 4.1 off him at the moment. Nicholas Cruton still on track in P3, but Schiller now very up close and personal. Mikey Porter, despite being, despite rummaging over the gravel trap a couple of laps to go, coming through turn 13, Well, he is still going to have a chance to overtake Cruton nonetheless here on track. Is now a very interesting line taken there from Cruton as he exits, coming out of Eau Rouge and Radion. Now up through the Kemmel Straight, just looking to try and maintain everything he can.
Porter's getting closer too.
Yeah, Porter getting dragged along as well, and also Tommaso Mosca, we can't forget as well, the number 51, off the back of the incident, actually, 1.4 now. Remember, that gap was 2.5, so it's come down by approximately 1.1 seconds just due to the coming together between Porter and Schiller. So all of a sudden, it really does become a four-car affair over this final podium place.
So back to the top, got 20 seconds. It has always been 20 seconds, Christopher Haas. So Haas has got 15 seconds on this chasing pack they were watching. So 1 and 2 right now is absolutely nailed on the board. It's all going to be about Cruton, Schiller, Porter and Mosca. These 4 on screen.
Yeah, heading down now into the Lafania chicane. Cruton taking them through. There is Schiller. So now look to rush through the Lafania chicane. Mikey Porter exiting out of the run through Lafania, through towards Campus and Stavolo. There is Schiller. Looking to dig deep over the last lap. It was a 2:17.6. Obviously losing time through the fact that the group is starting to bunch up here. 15 minutes now before we reach the precipice of the final lap will then come into play, and a flash of the lights here from Schiller. Here just letting Cruton know that he's very much in striking distance. Maybe this, the final warning before the impending overtake is going to unveil itself. Schiller with a chiller. Here now as we make our way through this final 15-minute segment of this race. 14 minutes and 45 to be exact, as now Schiller continues to flash those lights in pursuit of Nicholas Cruton, who holds on to third at the moment. So apparently, according to race control, the 500 kilometre is 72 laps. By the looks of it, as opposed to finishing by time, we're finishing ahead of schedule. Well, as it stands, 4 laps to go. And so therefore, oh my goodness, Cruton running very wide, coming over the crest, coming through Eau Rouge and Radion. So now the door is open here for Fabian Schiller now to snatch the final podium place here for a top 3 visit here for Fabian Schiller after fighting his way through the field. He moves through past Cruton and into P3, coming through Les Combes and through Malmedy as well. Cruton now dropping to 4th, and Porter now looking to try and muscle his way through as well in the McLaren 720S. Knows he must get through to catch Schiller, who's now in that 3rd place.
Schiller and Bartome got 3rd place in the opening race of the series in Portimao, and then just picked up a 7th place finish, so they're going to be their 2nd podium if things stay like this in 3 races of the championship. So that is what they're heading towards. And now Cruton with a 10-second gap, of course, 10-second penalty. Here's a replay of that massive wide by Cruton, and that set up the move for Fabian Schiller to take over as they entered Les Combes.
It would have come anyway, obviously, given the fact that Schiller was well within the 10-second margin. Of course, Cruton's going to fall down the order. Here at this moment, Mikey Porter will jump ahead of him, should it stay like this, as well as Tommaso Mosca, who is now stuck right in behind Mikey Porter now. Mosca is well and truly in a big points fight, because it's not enough that just the podium are going to gain double points, but also everyone else that finishes inside that top 8 in the classification. So there's plenty to yearn for.
Now, of course, one of the reasons we'll have gone to laps instead of time is that we are, 140 minutes into this race. There's been no safety car. It's been a really clean race.
Single safety car.
I'm not going to jinx this, but generally you go to either 500 kilometres or 2 minutes 50, whichever comes first, and we are flying through the Spa 500.
And let me just extend this to you as well. The only car that's retired is the James Kell Dean McDonald car.
Oh, no!
That, of course, retired through a technical issue that occurred. Obviously, a mechanical fault, obviously, with the car somewhere. But, yeah, obviously, terrible for them, obviously, after achieving an incredible pole position and leading the opening stint the way they did. I mean, I genuinely believe, had we been at this point and that incident had not occurred, that quite honestly James Kell Dean McDonald would have had this race sewn up. I mean, really bewildering scenes and misfortune as well, as now on the attack comes Mikey Porter in a bid to try and move his way into on-track P4 ahead of Nicholas Cruton. Further back, Tommaso Mosca also just waiting in the wings for his opportunity to perhaps take down Cruton as well. But to the outside, the Optimum Motorsport McLaren back inside the top 4 now this time, as now Moscow also pile drives his way through and into P5, and Cruton will now drop into 6th place, with Tom Leben only behind him, but he is 31 seconds off the back, so Cruton will be safe despite that 10-second time penalty being issued. At worst, he could yet just finish 6th.
Yeah, it's going to be that. Exactly what I was going to say. The Team Motorpark guaranteed 6th place. They're 30 seconds back, 31 seconds back to Tom Leben. So he was always, not always, but pretty much nailed on that they were going to be in 6th position, and that is absolutely guaranteed now. Look at Schiller head up the road. He's not going to catch Haase. He's 18 seconds back, but just solidifying that 3rd place with 3 laps to go. You could still feel a fight here between Porter and Moscow for 4th place. Nice move on the inside as well. Just getting past some traffic there. That's our leader, Max Scott, 69 laps. He'll come over the start-finish line, and there will be 2 laps left to complete in this Spa 500.
Yeah, certainly will be. Penultimate lap, essentially, here at this point, with Max Gertz at the wheel. Leventia Ravesh, I'm sure, absolutely thrilled here at this stage. And the current fastest lap being held by number 21. That is, of course, Michele Rugolo, I believe, actually set the fastest lap as I look at it. Might be number 33, actually, with... yeah,
it was Dean McDonald.
Dean McDonald actually taking it, so credit to him for that. Despite the retirement, they at least come away with something. Of course, Michele Rugolo, number 21, it was lap 21. That Dean McDonald managed to register the fastest lap of the race. And James Kell, of course, in the car with him. But phenomenal performance here from Max Gertz, the champion across many different disciplinaries in the form of sports car racing in GT3. Joining Motorpark, this is his very first round here in this championship. And what a welcome arrival this has been, and I'm sure for Leventia Ravesh, who in only his first full season campaign of GT3 racing in the International GT Open has come here with the promise of working with a top driver. Of course, Gertz being a Mercedes factory talent in his own right, and looking to impart a little bit of wisdom for the Hungarian Leventia Ravesh, who I'm sure will have a bright future. Of course, Ravesh was lapping consistently in the 216s, much like Gertz has done as well. In fact, Gertz advancing it into the 215s. But if there's one thing that is for sure, Ravesh has given a grand account of himself in his stints that he has taken the helm. And Gertz, the ever-experienced German driver, it'll be on him to bring the car home for the German Motorpark team in what will be a historic day as Mercedes looks set as manufacturers to go back-to-back after Alphys Zubert and Michael Grenier 12 months ago went ahead and took victory here in the Spa 500. There's Christopher Haase, who has pulled off a gallant display himself. 13.034 seconds. Over the last lap was faster than Gertz, but Gertz on this lap at 2:16.937, bringing that deficit right back down again. It's been another stellar performance from Easter Lent Audi, who, again, don't necessarily harbour Spa or Portimao as their strongest tracks. They think that their stronger tracks are to come later into the championship. But we'll have to wait and see what they can deliver as they make their way through the championship campaign. Incident involving cars 80, that's Andrea Montemini, and the 777 of Carol Bash. They've reviewed that one as well. We'll, of course, update you as to whatever decision's been made there, but as we now watch as Gertz makes his way around, it's been a stunning performance.
Oh,
here,
yeah,
Ewan.
almost perfect, yeah. I mean, this is going to double their advantage in the championship too, because James Kell and Dean McDonough, who were second, are not going to pick up any points at all. Christopher Haase and Simon Reich will move to second in the overall championship, but Ravesh and what's Cairoli now got, they will take their second win in a row.
Just want to note as well that the incident involving Schiller and Porter coming around Lafanier in towards turn 13 will be investigated after the race, so not quite sure what's going to happen with that one, but yet more drama, Ewan.
Oh, it never ends, never ends.
Mysteries, but certainly there is no mystery as to what's going on at the very top of this classification. With 71 laps in the bag up to this very point, Max Gertz, who was tasked with bringing the car home in the GT Open 500 here at Spa, the first one of 2 this season. He was called upon by Levente Rovesh to become a duo for Motorpark for this coming season. Motorpark as a team who have been successful historically in this championship with race wins, still yet to take their first championship honours though, here in the International GT Open, but they've been knocking on the door relentlessly in the past. They've taken AM championships, but certainly in Levente Rovesh, they have got an overall title contender here in 2025 as Maximilian Goertz crosses the line and takes victory here for Motorpark. And it's back-to-back wins for Mercedes here in this race as well. After Faisal Al-Zubair and Michael Grenier did it 12 months ago, Christopher Haase, yet another runner-up position here in the GT Open 500 after narrowly missing out to Optimum back in 2023. Haase with a brilliant drive, as well as Simon Riker as well to finish second, and Fabian Schiller and Bartone after all the drama that unfolded with Robert Bissoyou, and then later on with Mikey Porter as well. They take P3 out on track, making it 2 Mercedes inside the top 3. A grand weekend to be a Mercedes represented team, of course, with Mikey Porter bringing a McLaren home in the top 4. What could have been as well for James Kell and Dean McDonald had their McLaren made it to the end after their mammoth first stint that brought them 15 seconds of an advantage before a mechanical issue with the car brought them into the pits with an eventual retirement. But as we now watch as Steve Jans and Aaron Walker, the young man from Herefordshire, representing the Get Speed performance team. Like I said, Almada Racing by Get Speed won this race last year. It's a Pro-Am win for Aaron Walker. Brilliant work from him. Steve Jans also with some phenomenal efforts in the car as well. And we've got to give credit as well to the legend, Miguel Ramos, a winner again in the International GT Open and in the SPA 500. They win the AM class, with Mark Sampson delivering a stellar performance as well in his own right. But they all line up now in Parc Fermé. And our winners will be united once more, this time in Parc Fermé. Mercedes factory driver meets former Audi factory driver Haase and Goertz. There'll be plenty more duels between those two, I'm sure, as Levente Rovesh gives his compadre a big hug. There is Christopher Haase, absolutely delighted. Easterland will count this as a win in their eyes. Yet again, another stellar round for the Easterland Audi team, which will serve them well for later on in the season. And Bartone and Schiller will stand tall on a GT Open podium once again, US.
It's just been fantastic. I've just sort of sat back here with my arms crossed, smiling, because it's been absolutely wonderful. 165 minutes of drama, and at the end of it, the championship leaders extend their lead. 2 consecutive wins for Rovesh and Goertz/Caroli. It's been absolutely wonderful. Christopher Haase, Simon Riker, reigning champions, move into second place from third. Not the best day at all.
Well, let's take you through the top 3 at the end of what has been a truly remarkable race. Anthony Bartone and Fabian Schiller bring in the Get Speed Performance Mercedes home. Plethora of podiums for them this round, with Riker and Haase back again in podium contention here at Spa. Unfortunately, second was only enough they could obtain. But our winners, Max Goertz and Levente Rovesh, they're standing by with Alfredo Filipponi, our winners of the SPA 500. Just getting set ready for the interview at the moment. They're just standing by, being called upon by Alfredo Filipponi, our resident interviewer here in the International GT Open. The cameras are on standby, and Alfredo will be welcoming them, I'm sure, as we await to have a few words with them. Let's take you through the results after that incredible race and a massive well done and a grand performance from Levente Rovesh and Max Goertz. So winners here at Spa for the 500, the first of 2 we'll see this season. Simon Riker, Christopher Haase in second, Bartone and Schiller in third, with Mikey Porter and Zach Meekin for Optimum Motorsport in fourth. Bennett and Mosca for AF Corsa in fifth, with Robert Bissoyou, Nicholas Cruton surviving the 10-second time penalty to bring home P6 at the very least. That is points for them. Tom Leben and Tom Ebsen finishing seventh for Elite Motorsport Ferrari. Steve Jans, Aaron Walker, Pro-Am winner down in 8th with Anton Dokan and Artem Petrov in 9th as well, P10 as well for Dominic Baumann as well. Jedlinski and Bash, they finish in 11th place, as well as finishing 3rd in the Pro-Am. Hash Fontana 12th, Salakada Milota in 13th, Planchemont Pavarud in 14th, Ludwig Montemini in 15th, Heiko Neumann and Lucas Dunner in 16th, Ramirez Aaron 17th, Rogalski and Newgran in 18th, Bondwell, Dorbecker 19th, Hook and Fernandez Laser then further back, Zelda Berbini in 21st, Samson Ramos 22nd, DeMeo Stanley 23rd, Naren Jackson 24th, Forgione Rugalo in 25th, Jeffrey Ibrahim and Abubakar Ibrahim 26th, Hernandez I should say, in Tribudini in 27th, Jabarian and Bachi 28th, Jedlinski and Kozanowski, McDonald and Kell retiring after that early lead that they created. So there we have it. That is the classification. Now done and dusted. And now we can head down into Parc Ferme with Alfredo, Max Gertz and Ravesh.
We are with the winners of the first GT Open 500 of the season, Levente Ravesh, Max Gertz. Well done. Levente, this is fantastic for the championship.
Yes, it's really amazing. Yeah, the start was really good, then we just kept up. Yeah, the car was really good, really huge thanks to the team for the support throughout the weekend, and yeah.
And Max, first time in the GT Open and winning.
Yeah, I can't ask for more, I would say. First attempt and first win with this great guy. Car was great, so we were lucky, of course, a bit because the McLaren was flying in terms of lap times. They had an issue, so without that, it would be really hard for us. But in the end, we proceeded really well. We did no mistakes. We controlled it in the end, so yeah, was bringing home that good result. It's a team effort. The car was great, so thanks for all. It's great to be here.
Well done, guys, and now time to celebrate.
Thank you.
After 2 hours and 55 minutes, we got underway here for the Spa 500. Getting off to a great start was Greystone GT, taking that early lead and managing to build the gap out to around 15 seconds. Truly extraordinary, but it all came to a head later on. First and foremost, though, Levente Ravesh up the inside of Simon Riker, looking to try and catch the race leaders Greystone as a result. Later, his teammate and also fellow Motorpark car as well, Robert Visoyu, trying to move past Simon Riker alike, as well as Mikey Porter trying to also move his way through, or Zach Meekin, I should say, taking the opening stint into the pits lane as the driver change window opened up for the first time. It came the Greystone GT, the race leader at that time. We then witnessed as well Christopher Haase trying to make his way through past the 13 belonging to Robert Visoyu and Nicholas Cruton. Aaron Walker also now venturing through as well, and the driver change periods then kicked up again. Levente Ravesh would go in for his second stint. Greystone GT falling down the order after a retirement due to a mechanical fault. We also had a collision between the Anthony Bartow and Fabian Schiller car and Robert Visoyu, as well as they made their way through Les Combes. Eventually they were given a 10-second time penalty with Visoyu and of course Nicholas Cruton. And then the final driver change period came into play with then Christopher Haase at the wheel of his machine, his Audi R8 LMS. He would later go in full pursuit of Gertz, was unsuccessful though, however, as they duked it out over who had the faster laps. Indeed, later on though, Schiller taking the helm would come into P3, but it would be Max Gertz in his first appearance in the International GT Open, coupled up with Levente Ravesh for this season, marking a wonderful result in bid to become a champion. Ravesh leading the Drivers' Championship as it stands, the Hungarian in full pursuit. This is what that race has done to the title race. Levente Ravesh consolidating his lead at the very top by 11 points, with Christopher Haase and Simon Riker still very much in contention. 42 points, though. A long way to go this season with one more 500 race to come. Anthony Bartow and Fabian Schiller in third. Zach Meekin and Mikey Porter in 33. Bear in mind, there's only 20 points between fourth and first at the moment. And Max Gertz also in the firing line in P5 as well. 30 points now in his very first weekend, after the usual 15-point for a race win system gets doubled to 30. That is why he's got 30 points. But he will stand tall. And I say Ewan, he's got the best record in the championship now.
He has, yeah, 1 from 1. Just retire now. Just do it, that's it.
I mean, what a way to do it.
100% record in GT Open.
Coming into the hallmark race of the season, the Spa 500, the Enduro, the big test. First time of asking, a race winner, and he got to take the checkered flag as well. Credit where credit's due. Anthony Bartone, Fabian Schiller standing third on the podium. They've had an action-packed day today, and also a busy day today for the Easterland Audi of Simon Riker, Christopher Haas. A great day for Easterland, actually. I'm sure they'll be absolutely thrilled with the second place as we now take in the German national anthem. An iconic theme that has rung around motorsport circuits and very much around Spa-Francorchamps on many an occasion in the past, but this time it is sounded for Maximilian Goetze and of course Levente Revesh this time around for the German Motorpark team. P3 for Anthony Bartone and Fabian Schiller. They continue their acquisition of trophies in the International GT Open once more as the CEO of the GT Sport organisation, Jesus Pereira, presents the P2 trophies to Simon Riker and Christopher Haas. Shakes the hands as well of all competitors who have been successful here this time around. Last but certainly not least, our race winners, Max Goetze and Levente Revesh. Winners once more, and that is back-to-back rounds with victories for Levente Revesh that has planted him on the top of the championship. And who knows, we could be looking at yet another budding champion in his first time of asking in his full season debut in the International GT Open. After moving from single-seaters to GT3, he's taken to it like a duck to water, Ewan.
Yeah, it's been incredible, hasn't it? It doesn't get any better, really. Can't expect 3 wins from 3, but 2 from 3, absolutely flying. Championship leaders, and rightly so. A great weekend, a great 3 hours of racing. 2 stints each, got the job done. On to Hockenheim.
Yeah, they were flying. The champagne is flying as well. Max Goetze, after that one, sure, it's such a welcome sight to see him on this grid. Raises that competition level up a little bit more. Next up, we do have the Pro-Am Championship, where Aaron Walker will look to celebrate this one with Steve Jans too. Obviously, there's Steve Jans there on the right of picture, very happy, big smiles, certainly as he lines up. Well, that's Dominic Baumann, I should say, my mistake. Also lining up with Valentin Pierberg. After that tremendous performance. Of course, Pierberg, a former Pro-Am champion, after siding up with Tom Onslow-Cole back in 2019. Mark Sampson, of course, we see him in the background. We'll see him very shortly as for the AM podium, with Miguel Ramos bringing the car home in great style. We welcome back as well Carol Bash and Marcin Jedlinski, and I think it's a welcome return to the Audi R8 LMS for this pairing. Obviously delighted, I'm sure, at taking a podium here in the Spa 500, one of the iconic race on the calendar. Of course, we'll see another one at Monza, another historic track that also celebrated its centenary year not too long ago. But on the top step, it is Aaron Walker, the young man from Herefordshire, and Steve Jans, who arrives here with a Pro-Am victory in his pocket at one of the most testing races you'll see this season, and a race track that stands as the longest on our calendar. Of course, the trophy presentation will continue with Jesus Pereira, GT Sport Organisation CEO, presenting the third place trophies to Carol Bash and Marcin Jedlinski. Great day for the pole competition, or combination, I should say. Get Speed sending the representative up there as well. Great day for Get Speed, actually, because they've had 2 cars feature in, well, 1 car featuring in the Pro podium, and now also winners in the Pro-Am podium.
Yeah, and at the Spa GT 500 as well. It feels like a double win sometimes, doesn't it? So they're collecting their winners' trophies. Congratulations to Steve Jans and Aaron Walker. Top step. And what a place to do it.
Yeah, I'm sure Adam Osaka is watching on with great delight after that performance, and it's a shame we don't have Adam Osaka and Kiki Santana indeed representing Get Speed this season in the International GT Open, but I'm sure they're showing their own share of support. But a great day for Mercedes again, with SPS finishing Pro-Am second, as well with Valentin Pierberg and Dominic Baumann, who were a phenomenal partnership. I'm sure that they'll be taking bigger results as well, just given how much Valentin Pierberg has improved in recent years. You'd argue that he's probably a better driver than he was in 2019 when he won the Pro-Am title.
It's always interesting when watching it for a few years, watching the drivers, particularly the AMs and these Pro-Ams, just get better and better and better.
Yeah, they certainly do. Next up, we have AM class. On the left, you can see Mark Sampson, part of the Garage 59 crew. Got his teammate, the legendary Miguel Ramos, now looking with his eyes set only on the AM crown, and this is a good way to do it. Obviously, registering a class victory in the Spa 500. And we've also got to give credit where credit's due to the Ferrari outfit on the far right-hand side. Of course, Michele Rugolo, who stands tall in the 21 car that he sided with Gino Forgione with, as they now take to the podium. Of course, the third in AM was Stefan Trubadini, also in his first start in the International GT Open this weekend, coming in alongside Alfredo Hernandez, who had coming together with Stanislav Jedlinski back at our first round at Portimao, which led to his car retiring. Well, he's bounced back in the right way this time. Third step of the podium, as we welcome Mark Sampson and Miguel Ramos, a former two-time overall champion in this series, last time around back in 2020. And yeah, more championship gold could yet be going their way should they finish this season in the best way possible. Back in 2020, he was, of course, partnered up with Henrique Chavez for Teo Martin Motorsport McLaren back then. Back in a McLaren again, though, this time around for Garage 59, as now the trophies get lifted aloft by Michele Rugolo, also a regular winner in this series. Jesus Pereira, Championship CEO of the GT Sport organisation, presenting the winners with the trophies, all three classes, having their trophies distributed. And now they will, I'm sure, spray the champagne, but a few pictures first and foremost, and some treasured memories, I'm sure, with more silverware to come in the near future. But that is all from us, folks. We will see you again very, very soon at Hockenheim Ring for round 3. Join me and George Morgan and, of course, Chris Stevens for round 3 soon. Goodbye.